Now, today, we are gonna see, what if Naruto had sweet and wet harem in Percy Jackson? Join Patreon for early ACESS and exclusive content of Super Ops Stories, ALS. Adult and steamy Harry Potter stories too. Please subscribe this channel, because definitely I will try my best to provide a valuable content for you all. Also check the description to support the original author for this beautiful creation. Konohamaru was walking around the village with his friends around the village. Udon and Moegi were worried for their friend. Ever since Naruto was from his mother 4 years ago, Konohamaru has been in a bad mood. He still hanged out with his friends and trained, but his friends could tell he really missed Naruto. Udon then said, "Cheer up Konohamaru, I am sure the boss will be back." "Yeah," Moegi agreed, "boss would not abandon us like that. He will come back, I know it." Konohamaru sighed, "I know there is no way boss would stay away without becoming Hokage. I just miss him a lot. Plus who knows how much stronger boss is becoming or what cool adventures he must be having." The other two nodded. "Yeah, he will have great stories to tell us." Moegi said, "I can't wait to hear them." Udon added, "But you do not have to wait, child," an old voice said not far from them. The three students turned and saw 3 old ladies sitting next to a food cart they never saw before, all knitting something with blue yarn. Konohamaru took a step towards them and asked, "What do you mean by that? And how do you know boss?" One lady chuckled, "We know everything. Past, present, future." Then all 3 ladies cackled. The 3 academy students stared at them before one of the ladies went on, "We know of your boss, we never met him, but he is one of a kind. He is also someone we cannot really see. We cannot determine his path, but we can tell you what we know." The 3 academy students became excited. One lady pulled something from her bag. "This is a special book. It will tell you of the tale of Naruto Uzumaki, who shall be known as the mortal god." The 3 looked at the book offered to them. It was a simple black book with the SWIRL on the cover like the one on Naruto's jumpsuit. Udon grabbed the book and opened it. "Hey, what is the big idea?" Konohamaru yelled. "There's nothing written in here. That is because you are to read it with those close to Naruto." One lady said before another added, "As you read the pages will fill, so even if you stop as a group no one can skip ahead. The blanks pages will also help you understand certain thing that you might find confusing." "Like what?" Moegi asked. "There are things in the world Naruto is in that this world has never even dreamed of. It is to help you understand without being lost." The 3 students grinned madly at each other before running off to find Iruka-sensei so he can help gather Naruto's friends so they can find out what Naruto adventures were. Not one of them notices that the 3 old ladies were gone as if they were not there. Tsunade looked from the book to the group in front of her. Konohamaru and his friends found Iruka first and he took them to the Hokage after the small boy told him what they got. It took a little to convince Tsunade of the book and she sent for Team 7, or what was left of it, 8, 9 and 10. It was luck. Why that the Sand siblings were also in the village, so Tsunade invited them as well, seeing as Naruto was their friend. Sakura looked from the gathered genin to everyone else before turning her head towards Tsunade, who was sitting on the couch in the room they were meeting in. Jiraiya saw leaning against the wall next to her, eyeing the book in her old teammate's hand. He was given the book to study briefly and he could find nothing. Not a seal or even a bit of charca in it. Sakura finally asked, "Lady Tsunade, why were we all called here?" Tsunade smirked, "You see, I know everyone here has been worried about Naruto or wondering how he was doing since his mother took him away. This got their attention as all eyes were on her. I got here a book that tell us what he has been up to." Kakashi raised a brow. "And where did you get this book, Lady Tsunade?" Tsunade glanced at the Konohamaru Corp, who grinned excitedly at her. Tsunade then explained how the 3 academy student got the book and everything they told her about it. Lee got a big grin on his face and fire in his eyes. "Yosh, Naruto will no doubt be showing the flames of youth." Guy smiled while glimmed and gave a thumbs up to Lee. "That is correct, Lee. We must train harder so your flames match that of Naruto's." Before the pair could even begin to hug or anything that would traumatize Tsunade stopped them. "Enough, you two. We do not want to hear it." She cleared her throat. "I had Jiraiya look it over and it seems to be real." The only way to find out for sure is to read it ourselves. She picked the book and opens it to the first page. Some inched closer, and those able to peek over the sides were amazed as the once blank pages started to fill as words appeared, filling the first 2 pages. Tsunade started. The land of the elements was a whole another world from the one that we know. In fact, it is not even part of our world. And the gods know this well. This world is found in a parallel dimension. The Olympian gods know of this world because they visit it often. It was a vacation for them, where they don't have to worry about their domain and responsibility, as they have none of that here. Aneth. Reason is time flowed different from each world. 1 year there is 3 years here, or sometimes it switches. This world was different from the one they are used to and created. Whatever they do or what they do to relax is different, but it was all the same to them. Shikamaru was the first to notice a part of the passage they just read. Wait, so does that mean Naruto will age slowly while we age faster than him? This caused everyone to stop and think. Konohamaru was smiling, thinking of how cool it would be to have less of an age gap between his idol. The genin frowned, not sure how they feel of Naruto aging slower than them. Hinata had her head bowed, worried about being too old for Naruto. Was he even into older women? Probably not, seeing as he has a crush on Sakura, who was roughly the same age. One goddess was simply enjoying a walk through the forest near the spot she entered from. Having just got here, she figured she'd take in the beauty of the world before something happens. While this world was not like her own, the lands were home to ninja. The last time she was here, she spent 3 years with a village of them and gotten to know one of them. To her surprise, he was also a half-blood, though he never left this world. He knew who his immortal parent was and even seen them a few times. In those 3 years she gotten to know this half-blood and had even fallen in love with him. She even bared a child for him to rise. She felt heartbroken leaving him here with just his father. If it was her world, she would at least see him more often, have him go to Camp Half-Blood, where he would train, and she would claim him as hers. Sadly, this was not meant to be, as a terrible tragedy came that night. The group that knew felt for the goddess at what had happened and the fate her son took. The younger one that did not know wondered what happened to Naruto and his father. A monster attacked that village as she was giving childbirth to her son. Though she could do nothing then, she wished she could have. This monster, as the village called it, the nine-tailed fox, was a giant beast that could crush mountains and cause tsunamis with a single flick of its tails. She felt as if that thing could be a match for the Typhon. Typhon? Sakura asked. Tsunade then noticed a footnote appearing at the bottom of the page. Something just came up, she said, getting their attention before reading aloud. Typhon, most powerful son of Gaia and the father of all monsters, nearly defeated the gods before Zeus was able to trap him under a mountain. The group stared. If that thing was as Str. Ong as the nine-tailed fox, they hoped they would not have to face a force like that. After her child was born, she was still weak and tried as her lover came to her. He told her that the only way to save the village was to seal the monster away into their son. With his immortal blood in him, he will be able to hold the creature back forever and it would never be freed again. Sakura was one of the first genin to make the connection. Sealed. Then it is inside Naruto. The sensei was quiet before Jiraiya spoke up. That's correct. Naruto had the fox sealed inside of him ever since he was born. The genin stared quiet. Gaara closed his eyes. So we are more alike than I thought, Naruto. To have such a burden and still be like you are, it is no wonder you are so strong. Tears gathered in her eyes, as she was told the next day that doing this cost him his soul. She knew as he died in this world, he was sent to this world afterlife and not the underworld. Even if he did, she could do nothing about it. She was forced to leave her son soon after that, as she had to get back home before the gods send someone to get her and get punished for trying to skip out of her duty. It happened to Ares and Apollo once. Once making sure that her son was in good hands, gave him one last lullaby and kiss, then left. Almost everyone was crying. Lee was bawling his eyes out while hugging his equaling bawling sensei. The other genin wiped the tears from their eyes, feeling for Naruto and those who still that their mother was determined to tell them they love her and to thank for all she has done for them. Konohamaru and his friends were crying hard, wanting to hug their mothers. Iruka wiped a tear from his eyes before he placed a hand on Konohamaru's shoulder in comfort. The other sensei had to also wipe small tear from their eyes while Kakashi had his close deep in thought. Tsunade and Jiraiya smiled sadly. Remember how Artemis felt when she had to leave Naruto. Shikamaru then noticed a part of the passage everyone else seemed to miss. Wait, Naruto's father sealed it in him. That would mean he was the one who defeated it. And the only one that did that was, he left it hanging and the others Leaf Genin released it as well. Holy shit, Hiba muttered shocked, his dad is the fourth Hokage. Tsunade sighed. She and Jiraiya figured it would come out in the book. She was sure Artemis would have told Naruto but not this early. Yes, Naruto's father was the fourth Hokage, Minato. Namikaze. Jiraiya spoke out before anyone else could say anything. Now listen, this is one of the best kept secrets. While only the younger generation don't know the truth about the fox, only a select few know of Naruto's heritage, and that is because most of them knew his parents. The group was quiet before Konohamaru asked, do you think the boss knows? Quote, Jiraiya shrugged. I don't know for sure, but I can guess his mother will tell him. Now let's get back to reading. Tsunade opened the book back up and read off where she left off. This was the first time she came back to this world, but she hopefully would be able to see her little boy. The sound of a waterfall caught her attention and figured that she could a bit of cold water splashed to her face to calm her down before heading for the village hidden in the leaves. The waterfall came into view and the goddess looked on to see a strange scene. Our fall was in between two giant statues that remained her of some of their temples that she and the other god had back in the day. At their feet were two boys. Well, one didn't look like a boy. He had gray skin and had large leather wings shaped like hands. In his hands was what looked like black lighting. The sound of many birds could be heard all around the valley. Kakashi stiffened at this. Was this the final fight between Naruto and Sasuke? He did not see the fight itself, but after it, part of him did not was to see. On the other side has a blonde hair boy, whisker-like marks on his face and wearing what looked like an orange jumpsuit. It looked like something only Apollo would love. There was an aura around him that was shaped like an animal. When she saw the thick aura tail, she realized it was a fox. In his hands was, she closed her eye and shook her head. She has to be seeing things, she just had to. The group realized this was Naruto fighting, but who was he fighting? Did Orochimaru say, "Nd another one of his men to stop Naruto"? In the boy's hands was an orb of energy that was spinning in every direction at once. It was called the Rasengan. It was a move her lover made inspired by his immortal father. Those that did not know wonder which god was the father to the fourth Hokage. Which god inspired to make such a jutsu? Then the two charged at each other. The monster flying while the other one jumped and glided at him. Their arms held back ready to use their attacks, each shouting at the other. Sasuke, Naruto. The team that was sent to retrieve Sasuke was shocked. Ino and Sakura were wide-eyed, tearing up a Sasuke becoming a monster. Shikamaru knew what happened, the curse mark. Like the sound, for Sasuke was able to transform to win this fight. The goddess's heart skipped a beat. Could that be her son? While in face was changed slightly by the aura, but it looked a lot like her lover's face. Her son groaned so much. They met in midair and the attacks clashed with each other. The energy mixing, causing it to flare up, blinding even the goddess. When it cleared, she froze. Only one of the boys was still standing, and it was not her son. Kakashi closed his eyes, knowing that while he found Naruto defeated with his mother over him, he knew what had happened. For his mother to have seen it right when it happened must have made it worse for her. Again he cursed himself for teaching Sasuke the Chidori and not force the issue of using it against your comrades harder. The monster changed back into a dark-haired boy, said something to her son and left. She didn't hear what he said. Her whole attention was on her son. She wanted nothing more than to turn that boy into something nasty and unpleasant. The only stopping her was her injured son. Tsunade scowled for a moment. I wish she did do something to that little brat. But she did not fault Artemis, as she would have reacted the same way. Removing some ambrosia and a bottle of nectar, she cut a square and feed it to him. After she got him to eat it, she had him swallow some of the nectar. She tried not to give him too much, for fear it would kill him. Slowly the wound in his chest started to heal before her eyes. She checked again and found him still alive and breathing fine. Sakura, Hinata and Shizune were amazed. Lady Tsunade, is there really something that can heal like that? Tsunade sighed. Yes, I know it. It is called ambrosia and it is the food of the goods. It can heal half-bloods from injuries but we can't have it. Why not? Shizune asked. Because any mortal that eats it will burn to ash. Even half-bloods can burst into flames if they eat too much. The group paled at that thought. Tsunade went on seeing to change the subject. As it started to rain softly, the goddess made her decision. She was bringing him back with her right now. She gathered him up as a ninja and a pug enter the valley. The dog sniffed around but turns to the ninja who didn't take his eye off of the goddess. The rain is washing away the scent, I can't track anything anymore. The ninja still looked at the goddess, know what she really was. He bowed and said, my lady. Kakashi didn't say anything but you could see the sadness in his eyes. This was his greatest failure, losing 2 of his students in one go. The goddess knew who this was as he was trained by her lover and helped protect the village. Kakashi, I'm taking my son where he belongs. Tell you village, if her ever come back it will be his decision. If it was up to me he would never come back. And in a blind light, which caused Kakashi and his dog to look away, vanished with her son. The group was quiet before Gaara spoke up, so it is possible for Naruto to come back here. Kakashi nodded, yes, I am sure Naruto will be back. Gaara nodded with a small, barely noticeable smile, then I shall train and be ready for when he come back. Scene change. A day after Naruto was taken from his world, the blonde was now in a bed. From the sounds outside the window, it seemed that it was very noisy out there. Slowly waking up, Naruto bolted up and looked around. This place was not his apartment in the village hidden in the leaves, nor was it a hospital room. Looking around him, he noticed a scroll addressed to him. Dear Naruto, I am sorry I won't be there when up awaken. First I am you, mother. I'm sorry I could not be there for you growing up. There are law my family has that forces any children of theirs to be raised by someone we trust or love. I know it must be strange to you but I hope you understand. I fully intend to have you brought up by your father but that cursed fox sealed in you stopped that. His death hurt me and not being about to be with you even more. Please believe me I would want nothing more than to raise you but the laws are stopping me. You are now in another world far from you own. This is my world and I brought you here after I found you at the valley. Don't worry though, we will meet in time. When the time comes, I will be happy to see you. Now, since you are still young, you have to go to school in this world and I have enrolled you in Yansei Academy. In the seal at the bottom of the scroll, you'll find all that you need in this world and that includes money. Also, there are some special jutsu from your father that only you can learn since you are his son. Though I saw you already know one of them. Oh, just for a reference for the future, a book on Greek mythology, you will need that info, trust me. Be careful my son. Your mother. Iruka sighed. He hoped Naruto would be able to adapt to this new world. But would Naruto even try hard in school? Maybe because his mother wanted him to he would at least try. Naruto sighed as he looked out the window after reading the scroll. He had a lot to do in this new and strange world. Smirking, he created a shadow clone and got to work sorting out the stuff in the scroll. As he did he could not help but think, is this world ready for me? Kakashi chuckled, not likely Naruto. Konohamaru then pumped, alright boss, I am sure you will show them who's boss. His friends cheered as well causing many in the group to laugh. Tsunade smiled and closed the book. Well let go see what trouble Naruto has caused. Who wants to read next? Chapter 2. Konohamaru had his hand up but Iruka was already getting up and taking the book from Tsunade before returning to his seat. Konohamaru pouted and crossed his arms but it did not stop him from listening as Iruka started. Chapter 2. Something weird is going on. It has been a few months since Naruto arrived in this new land. Learning a new language had been surprisingly easy. Though he did find out that he was dyslexic in this world also but he knew how to deal with it. The group was surprised too. Here Naruto learned a whole new language easily and the fact he was dyslexic. Ino blinked. Wait he is too. Sakura looked at her. What do you mean too? Ino blushed. I have a hard time reading, the word keeps swimming before my eyes. It takes me forever to read anything. That was why you did better than me with reading and test in the academy. The group blinked before Jiraiya chuckled. That's because it's the mark of a half-blood. You were dyslexic because your brain is hardwired to read ancient Greek. You can read that as clear as day. Ino blinked at this new information. That was not all bad, for you see. He had met a boy with the same problem. His name was Percy Jackson. The two got along very well. They were both impulsive and that hated being in school. Naruto's reason was because of his experience in the academy back home. While Percy's reason was that weird thing happened to him and always got then blame. Now, Naruto being himself did not really give a second thought about that. That, and the fact that he told Percy about his ninja abilities only strengthened their friendship. Percy wished that he could make shadow clones to do his own homework and often begged Naruto to use them to help him out in school or when they were handing out. Iruka frowned. He should really do his own homework. Kakashi chuckled. Well, that is Naruto for you. Plus it does not matter really. Anything the clones do is sent back to the user. You can do a lot of paperwork with a couple of clones. Tsunade felt like hitting herself for not realizing it sooner. Then through that friendship came another. Through Percy, he had met Grover Underwood. The boy was a cripple because he was always seen with crutches. He was also a bit of a hippie in his opinion because of the fact that he barely ever ate meat and by the way he dressed. Naruto thought his outfit back home was way better. This caused those that knew his fashion sense to shake their heads, and showing the guys it caused Grover to just laugh. Though he was pranked afterwards. All in all, Grover was a very nice guy. He usually looked out for Percy and himself the best he could. Of course being crippled made him a bit weak. Now, however, our trio was on a bus to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They were taking a trip to learn about Greek mythology, not that Naruto needed it since he knew a lot already. Sitting in his seat, Naruto saw what Percy was wearing for today. With his dark hair, he wore an orange and red shirt, blue jeans, and some black shoes. Grover, who was sitting right next to Percy, had his usual crutches, i.e. dye shirt and some oversized pants on that hid his shoes. Naruto was still considered the oddball of the group. He wore a pair of black sneakers, some ripped jeans, and a black shirt on that had a picture of blue flames coming from a bluish-silver dragon jaws. This caused Ino and Sakura to blink. They were surprised to hear he wore something beside orange, let alone something that actually looked good. Konohamaru thought the book sounds cool, which his friends agreed, and Hinata blushed as she pictured him dressed like that. His train of thought was broken because Nancy Bobofit was throwing wads of her peanut butter and jelly at Grover, who was acting like nothing was happening to him for their sake. Percy was already on probation because of the odd stuff that happened to him. Some of it was him helping Naruto. Naruto, however, was not, and he could do anything within reason. He smirked in anticipation. I am going to kill her. Naruto heard Percy mumble. It is okay. I like peanut butter. Grover commented as he had to dodge piece of Nancy's lunch. That's it. Percy growled out as he started to get up, but Grover kept him down. That is when Percy saw the look in Naruto's eyes and smirked. Iruka sighed as he read and knew that his favorite student was up to something. You're already on probation, Grover reminded Percy. You know who'll get blamed if anything happens. Percy smirked and said, only if I am the one doing it. That statement made Grover suddenly look at Naruto, and he was about to warn his other friend in the seat next to them, but he never got the chance to because at that moment, Nancy threw another piece of her lunch at Grover. Naruto, who had been fiddling with a paper shuriken, immediately threw the paper projectile at the wad, and it caught the piece of sandwich and kept on traveling to the window where it struck through a bit. Hey Nancy Drew, Naruto started with an annoyed smirk as he made fun of the girl's name. Please stop that, Nancy Drew, Hiba asked aloud, causing the others around him to shrug. Iruka noticed another footnote at the bottom of the page. It say that Nancy Drew is the star of a series of mystery book. I guess Naruto found out about them and made fun of her name before they are so close. Kakashi chuckled. That's Naruto for ye. Why the hell you care, Uzumaki? Who are you to tell me who can mess with? The redhead questioned. Because they are my friends and better people than you are, Naruto said with a glare that sent chills down the girl's spine. Now please stop or you will be my next target. Nancy paled at this. She knew what happened to those he targets. The last girl ended up tied upside down to the flagpole in her underwear, so she nodded her head. Good girl, Naruto said, making a lot of the students around them laugh. Included Percy and Grover. The girls frowned at what Naruto did. Hinata then muttered aloud, maybe the girl was a bully. Naruto is not the type of person to do that for no reason. The girls muttered to themselves, I guess. Tamari muttered, he never seemed like a pervert to me anyways. Jiraiya smirked thinking that Naruto maybe be thought yet, until he remembered he was by his mother and figure it would not happen. Scene change. Mr. Brunner led the museum tour. He rode up front in his wheelchair, leading the group through the big galley, past marble statues and glass cases full of really old black and orange pottery. Naruto could not help but chuckle at the choice of colors. This caused the group to sweat dropped. I guess he did not change that much, Kakashi thought. Naruto looked at Percy and saw the boy was blown away by the fact that this old stuff was in good condition. Dude, your mouth is hanging open. Percy's face went red as he closed his mouth. Naruto just laughed at his friend's expression. Sorry, it is just that this stuff is really old. Hey, well, when you have fanatics looking for this stuff, they find it and try and bring it back to the condition it was once in. Naruto said. Percy looked at Naruto oddly before shaking his head. I keep forgetting that you are one of those fanatics. I mean you read about all that Greek mythology all the time. This caused Naruto's old classmates to blink at that line. Really? Choji could not help but ask. Sakura was stunned. As long as she had known Naruto he was never interested in reading. It makes sense, Kakashi said, making everyone turn to him. He glanced at them. Think about it. Naruto has always been alone with no one to help teach him. There were even those that looked down on him and went as far to ignore him. Even some of the sensei in the academy. But when someone believed in him he fought even harder than he did to prove himself not just to him but to the person who believed in him. The third Hokage, Iruka, me, even Master Jiraiya. But here he was asked to study from his own mother, someone he wanted to know for a long time now. It is not so far-fetched for him to try so hard. The group was silent, the Sand siblings amazed at the strength Naruto had with the odd against him. He did not seem like much when they first met but he went through a lot and was strong in the heart even before they met him. Lee was crying hard. Naruto's flames of youth are burning bright, Guy Sensei. I must work harder so my flames may be a match for Naruto's. Guy have Lee his trademark glinting smile and thumbs up. Of course Lee. We will begin training at once. Lee jumped into the air, Guy Sensei. As his sensei copied him crying out, Lee. But before they could go on and lead to their special sunset backdrop, Tsunade was between them and hit both of the fools on top of the head. They crashed to the floor moaning in pain, as Tsunade ordered, I do not want to see that at any time while we are here. You try that again and I will be giving you two the most unyouthful missions I can think of for a year. Lee and Guy were bowing before Tsunade, apologizing before she had them take her seat. Tenten and Neji watched this thinking she may have been a little harsh but they did not mind the results. Iruka smiled, feeling proud of Naruto and how he must have improved even if he was still himself. He went back to reading wanting to know more of what he went through. There is some pretty interesting stuff. Naruto shrugged as they walked with the group to where Mr. Brunner had stopped. Besides, Mr. Brunner is under the assumption that we should both know about it all. Percy just rolled his eyes. Easy for you to say, you're interested in it. I mean that class. Biology class and PE is what you excel in, the others are miles behind, like me. Well, he has improved but he is still Naruto, Iruka said with a smile, causing the group to smile as well. Naruto replied with a shrug. Percy usually tried his best but thanks to his dyslexia and ADHD, he had a hard concentrating on much of anything at school. So the guy just didn't care much for them. That made a lot of sense. Those that were in the academy with Naruto thought. Even Ino thought how much they were alike, as she also had ADHD but she worked with it and made herself busy and figured it must be a half-blood thing. Turning their attention to Mr. Brunner, they went quiet, listened to the guy tell them about the ancient gods and other stuff like that. He had gathered them around a 13-foot-tall column with a big sphinx on the top. And the man started telling us how it was a grave marker, a steal, for a girl about our age. He told us about the carvings on the sides. Naruto noticed that PERCY was actually paying attention, but the idiots around them would not stop talking for 1 second, and Percy told them to shut up. For some odd reason Ms. Dodds, the annoying substitute math teacher, would give the both of them the evil eye. It was like she expected them to do something bad. That annoyed Naruto even further, and he kept getting a bad vibe from her. Her chakra was odd too. He knew he would have to keep an eye on her. This caused the adults of the group to look at one another. So a monster, you think? Jiraiya asked, to which Tsunade nodded. Seems like it. The younger members looked worried about this. Grover noticed this as well, and we both nodded to each other. This was someone they would keep an eye out for, because when Percy told them that he thought she was not human, Grover gave him a very serious look, like he already knew and agreed with him. Naruto just didn't like her because she was an old hag. Sweat drops. Anyway, Mr. Brunner just kept on talking about Greek funeral art. When Nancy blabbed about a naked man on the steel, Naruto saw Percy snapped and practically yelled at her to shut up. Mr. Jackson, came the voice of Mr. Brunner. Did you have a comment? No, sir, Percy replied, embarrassed by his outburst, which made Naruto shake his head. Sure, he was going to say the same to the redhead, but Percy beat him to it. 'Cause he would embarrasses her. But say she was a pervert for the statue. Jiraiya and a few guys laughed before they stopped with the glares from the females members. The wheelchair man then pointed to one of the pictures on the steel, asking Percy what the picture meant. That's Kronos eating his kids, right? Wait, what? Moegi asked, startled, and she was not the only one. Iruka looked at her. They are explaining it now. I am sure it is not that bad. I wouldn't bet one it, Jiraiya thought as Iruka started again. Yes, Mr. Brunner said, looking not that satisfied. And can you tell me why? Seeing Percy have a hard time answer that question, Naruto decided to intervene. The psycho ate his kids because there was some prophecy telling him that his kids were going to take over one day like he did. Naruto explained, getting a sigh of relief from Percy. He was the Titan Lord, so went and got his panties in a bunch and ate his kids because of that, but all he really did was set the prophecy in motion and scur EWED himself over because his wife hid her last born, Zeus, and gave the guy a rock to eat. Talk about bad taste, Naruto joked, which made a lot of people laugh, including Mr. Brunner. He also got some giggles from the group as well. Anyway, when Zeus was all grown up, he tricked his dad into barfing up his brothers and sisters, and well, the war between Titans and God came to be and the gods won. Even Iruka had to look sheepish at that. Okay, maybe it is as bad as it sounded. One of the girls commented on the barfing part. Of course, in my opinion, I find it odd that even if the gods were immortal, that they survived in Rockhead's stomach all those years. They must have been really annoyed and was like, little brother, what took you so long? Do you know how boring it is inside a stomach? Naruto joked, making people snicker. Sakura rolled her eyes, yes, because that was their biggest concern. Behind the two, everyone heard Nancy Bobofit mumble, like we're going to use this in real life. Like it's going to say on our job applications, please explain why Kronos ate his kids. And why, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Uzumaki, Mr. Brunner said, to paraphrase Miss Bobofit's excellent question. Does this matter in real life? Busted. Grover muttered. Shut up. Nancy barked at Grover, her face going redder than her hair. I don't know. Percy shrugged, a little relieved that Nancy was picked as well. Ya got me, Naruto said. Maybe if we go to Greece we need to know this stuff. I see, Mr. Brunner said, a bit disappointed. So I take it he knows of the gods as well? Sakura asked, catching on. And he believes that Naruto and Percy are half-bloods as well. Looks that way, Tsunade said, smiling at the fact Sakura was able to catch that. Well, half credit to you both. Zeus did indeed feed Kronos a mixture of mustard and wine, which made him disgorge his other 5 children, who of course, being immortal gods, had been living and growing up completely undigested in the Titan's stomach. The gods defeated their father, sliced him to pieces with his own scythe, and scattered his remains in Tartarus, the darkest part of the underworld. On that happy note, it's time for lunch. Mrs. Dodds, would you lead us back outside? The class drifted off, the girls holding their stomachs, the guys were roughhousing like normal and acting like idiots. Grover, Percy, and Naruto were about to follow when Mr. Brunner said, "Mr. Jackson, Mr. Uzumaki." They told Grover to keep one going while they handled whatever he was going to say to them. Sir, Mr. Brunner had this look, like he knew a lot more than he let on and that had seen too much. "You two must learn the answer to my question. About the Titans," Percy asked. "About real life, and how your studies apply to it." "Oh," the boys mumbled, though Naruto had the sinking feeling that the man was talking about both things. Good instincts, Naruto, Kakashi thought. "What you boys learn from me," he started, "is vitally important. I expect you to treat it as such. I will only accept the best from both of you, Percy Jackson, Naruto Uzumaki." This made both of the boys a bit angry at the man. Sure, he was cool in class when he set up those tournament days, but the man was pushing the two of them a bit hard. Naruto felt like he was training with pervy sage, telling him what to do, not how to do it. The only improvement was that Mr. Brunner didn't ignore you for some pretty girl. Tsunade glared at Jiraiya, who was chuckling nervously and sweating a little. Percy mumbled something about trying harder while Naruto just nodded his head as they left to go eat. Naruto noticed that Mr. Brunner gave a long sad look at the steel. It was odd to say the least. Hey, maybe the guy knew the girl. Not likely. Scene change. The class gathered on the front steps of the museum, where they could watch the foot traffic along Fifth Avenue. The boys noticed that storm clouds were brewing. "Hey Naruto, what do you think is going on with the weather and all?" Naruto gave the boy an "Are you serious" look. "You're asking me? I am not a weatherman, but odd stuff like this has been going on for a bit though. You see it all over the news nowadays. Strange this is no one else seems to notice the clouds other than us. It's like an otherworldly power or a genjutsu. He must have told his friend about them," Kurenai thought. "At least what they are basically." With that, the two boys joined Grover as the fountain and sat down to eat. It was away from the others so they would not be bothered, and the fact that PERCY didn't like being part of the school in the first made it seem that we're not part of the school for freaks. Of course, Naruto didn't care, but he was at first cheesed that he had to a school like this. "Detention?" asked Grover. "Nah," Percy answered, "not from Brunner. I just wish he'd lay off me sometimes. I mean, I am not a genius." Naruto rolled his eyes and said, "Hey, could have told you or him that. But it is like he knows something about us. Hey, maybe we are related to some old Greek god or something." The boys looked at each other and then burst out laughing, though for Grover it was a nervous laugh. Konkuro laughed. Of course he would make a joke that is right on the button. Tamari rolled her eyes before then said, "It seems that Grover also knows of the gods. Or at least has a clue." "Looks like it," Shikamaru muttered. "Where do you come up with this stuff?" laughed Percy, holding his sides. After bit, they were quiet. Then Grover asked for Percy's apple and the boy gave it to him. Percy seemed a little lost in thought. "Thinking about your mom again?" Naruto asked. "Yeah, we are kind of close to her place. I hope she is doing all right. I mean, she has been living with Gabe after all," Percy said, a little angry about her still with Gabe. "Dude, I'm sure she's all right. She put up with that slob this far, I am sure can do it a little bit longer. Still don't see what she sees in that guy though," Naruto commented. Percy nodded and was about to unwrap his sandwich when Nancy Bobofit and her annoying friends came over and got brave by dumping her lunch on Grover, making Naruto and Percy glare at her. "Oops," she drawled out while smirking at Percy, as if daring him to do something about that, and Naruto did not have a paper shuriken help some. Naruto could tell that Percy was pissed and was trying to keep his temper down and was failing miserably. Then something weird happened. The water from the fountain rose up and pushed her onto her butt into the fountain. The group was shocked. "Looks like Percy is the god of a water god," Tsunade said. "That is not what she saw though. Naruto pushed me. Then that old witch, Miss Dodds, came right up to them with a hard glare." Around them they heard whispers of what happened. Apparently, Naruto was not the only one to see the water move. After the old crone had made her Nancy was all right, she turned the two boys and started off with that, Now honey, crud, but Naruto beat her to it. I know. Naruto grumbled. A month of erasing workbooks. Naruto just sighed. This old hag was probably going to give him something worse. Though, it would seem that was not the right thing for Naruto to say. Both of you come with me. Wait, Grover spoke. It was me. I pushed her. We both started at Grover for that. Naruto was stunned that Grover was trying to cover for them. Naruto was put off that Grover wanted to take the punishment for them. Kakashi felt a bit of pride at this from Naruto. Sakura however was worried. He knows something and does not want Naruto and Percy alone with her. The old crone didn't seem to buy it and glared at him so hard that his chin trembled. He was scared of the old crone after all. I don't think so, Mr. Underwood. But, you will stay here. Miss Dodds forcefully said each word with anger, making Grover shrink a bit. It is okay man. Percy said to his friend while Naruto nodded. With that, they left with Percy giving Nancy an evil glare while Naruto slowly took out a paper shuriken, making the girl pale. That only made Naruto smirk. Though, when they looked back to Miss Dodds, she was already at the entrance of the museum. The boys looked at each other, thinking how the hell did she get over there so fast? Naruto got a gut feeling that this was not a good thing. Scene change. The boys walked to the end of the entrance, thinking that the old crone was going to make them buy a shirt to replace Nancy's wet one, but that seemed to not be the case. Becca. They walked right past the gift shop. Something is not right here. How far into the museum does she need to take us to bitch at us? Why do I have this feeling that I'm in for a fight? Naruto thought as they walked deeper into the museum. He looked to that Percy had the same thoughts as him. The group was tense, wonder what would happen. The small group made it back to the Greek and Roman gallery of the museum to find the place completely empty. They heard her growl as she looked at the marble picture of the Greek gods. You boys have been making trouble for us, she said suddenly. This made the boys look at her oddly. Percy was thinking about the candy he was selling while Naruto was thinking about the way he has been doing his homework and selling some of it to people who did not do theirs. Well, I am not sure what you are talking about, Naruto replied. Ma'am, I don't. Percy started, but the old crone didn't let him finish. Your time is up, she hissed ominously. Then the weirdness came. Her eyes began to glow like barbecue coals. Her fingers stretched into talons. Her jacket melted into large, leathery wings. She was not human, that was for sure. She was Pret. Why much an old bitch with bat wings and claws and a mouth full of yellow fangs, and it seemed that she was the boys as her next meal. What is that? Hiba was the first to ask as everyone was shocked. The Konohamaru Corp were huddling together, scared that such a monster was real, but they knew that their booze could handle it. A monster of that world, Jiraiya said, but I am not sure which one. If we keep going then we can find out, Iruka said before he started again. Please tell me you see that too. Naruto whispered to Percy to fearfully nod. Good, then I know that I'm not insane then. That is when things got even weirder. Because Mr. Brunner, who had been reading a book at the entrance, was at the entrance of the gallery with a pen and 2 silver and black rings in his hands. What ho, boys, the man yelled to them as he threw the items at them. That was when the old crone lunged at Percy. Naruto, thinking fast, made a seal appear on his pants and kunai holster appeared. He then took out 2 kunai and threw them at whatever Miss Dodds had turned into. Get away from my friend, you vampire reject. While the old hag dodged that, he then saw Percy catch the pen, but the odd thing was that it had turned to a goldish sword. He then caught the rings in time to flip out of the way of Miss Dodds' claws. Percy's eyes widened when he saw his friend's new weapons. In Naruto's hand were 2 identical twin blades. They were 2.5 feet long and curved. Bronze and black metal mixed seemed to be the blades. Tenten blinked before she leaned forward with stars in her eyes, thinking of such unique blades. Where can I get blades like those? Naruto rolled over to where Percy was and looked at Miss Dodds. She was getting up from her strike at Naruto and she looked pretty intimidating. Percy looked shaken by this. And it did not help that Naruto was a bit scared too. He had never fought something like this before. Then, she charged at the boys and they thought of were to stab her, and they did. Just as their blades met, the old crone burst in a shower of yellow powder. It was like she vaporized on the spot with nothing but the smell of sulfur and a dying screech that sent chills up their spines. There was an evil chill in the air, like those creepy eyes were watching their every move. What happened to the monster? Shino asked, speaking the first time. K at that what happens to monsters when they die? Tsunade nodded. Their body break down and their souls go back into the darkest pit of the underworld, where they are reformed and come back. Hinata gasped, worried that the monster will try and get Naruto again. The boys were now alone in the gallery once more. They looked back to their weapons and were shocked to find something different in their possession. Percy had a gold ballpoint pen while Naruto had the rings in his. Okay, Naruto said out loud, I think we should get back to the others, something odd is defiantly going on here. Right, Percy agreed when he saw that Mr. Brunner was not in the room they were in. Back outside, it had started raining. Grover was using his museum map as a tent to keep himself from getting too wet. While Nancy was still wet from earlier, she looked to them and smirked. I hope Mrs. Kerr whipped your butts. The group was quite confused. Who was Mrs. Kerr? Who? Percy let out. Our teacher. Duh. The boys blinked, asking who that was, but all she did was walk away. They asked Grover where the old crone was, but he just gave them an odd look and asked, who? But he did pause first before saying it, like he knew something was going on. Not funny, man, Percy said, this is serious. He didn't answer as thunder boomed overhead. Shaking his head, Naruto led Percy over to Mr. Brunner, who as under a red umbrella reading his book, like he never moved. He looked up distracted and asked, my pen and my lucky rings. Please bring your own writing utensil in the future, Mr. Jackson. Oh, and thank you for finding my lucky rings, Mr. Uzumaki, he said as they boys handed the items to him. Sir, Percy started, where is Miss Dodds? Who? He said with a blank face. You know, the other chaperone, the math teacher. Naruto explained. Boys, there is now Miss Dodds on this trip, nor is there one in the school. Are you boys feeling all right? He asked concerned. It is as if a genjutsu was placed over the class. Kurenai said. But who made it and why? Asuma asked, wondering what was the point. I do not know, but I am sure we will find out. Kakashi added. The boys just sighed and left, making their way back to Grover. On the way back, Naruto muttered out, is it me or is something going on here and we're missing it? Not just you think time, Naruto. Sakura muttered. Iruka closed the book. Well, that is it for this chapter. Konohamaru stood up. But what is all that about and why are they forgetting everything? Iruka looked at his student. I don't know, Konohamaru, but I am sure the book will explain it or Naruto will be told. Hinata looked down before she got determined and raised her hand. May I read next? Chapter 3. Hinata accepted the book and opened up to the page Iruka had marked. Chapter 3. Hell ends and a new hell begins. The group wondered what trouble Naruto has gotten into to that he would call hell. Iruka's sweat dropped as he had a feeling what it was. Life after the freak show went on like normal, well as normal as it could get in this school. For the rest of the year both the boys were a bit put off by the revelation that Miss Dodds never existed. In her place was a perky blonde woman named Mrs. Kerr. When either of the boys would ask something about the old hag, people just looked at the like they were nuts. Naruto, however, did like the new teacher thought. She was a refreshing change from the old crone. Though he still knew something was up, he knew that something had happened at the museum. Everyone else seemed to not even know what the hell they were talking about. Grover seemed like he did. He would always hesitate before denying it though. He was such a bad liar. Kakashi shook his head. He knew the important skill of lying and how it could kill you if you were bad at it. Anyway, that freak storm continued and one time it blew out the windows in Percy's dorm. Luckily, Naruto offered him a place to stay until things were fixed and ready to go to his place. A few days later, the biggest tornado ever spotted in the Hudson Valley touched down only 50 from Yancey Academy, which was scary in itself. Luckily they didn't get hurt. Percy started feeling cranky and irritable most of the time. His grades slipped from D's to F's. He got into more fights with Nancy Bobofit and her friends. He was sent out into the hallway in almost every class. Kiba chuckled, remembering how he skipped class and caused trouble with Naruto and felt like he would get along with Percy. Naruto was in some of his class. He was feeling the same way. He stayed under control. Most of the time, he was getting really annoyed if anything else. And when Naruto was annoyed or bored, he went on a pranking spree. Iruka sighed knowing this was coming, and the school had his pity. So far he filled the pools with orange jello, paint every single locker, and sides too, neon orange. And somehow got the statue of the school founder in a hideous green one-piece jumpsuit with orange leg warmers. He also used black permanent marker to make thick eyebrows on the head. No one figure out how he managed to do that. And what sent Percy and Grover over the top was Naruto telling them that Might Guy and Rock Lee wore that every single day in his home. Lee blinked before he shouted, "Guy-sensei. Naruto is spreading the flames of youth in that world. He is showing power of youth too. Everyone." Guy did his trademark smile and thumbs up. "That correct, Lee. We must work to help spread the flames of youth as well." The other sweat dropped while Jiraiya wondered, Here Naruto got one of those suits since he made sure Naruto got rid of the one Guy gave him. Though when Percy got in trouble for calling their English teacher an old sot, whatever that meant, the SC Hool sent a letter his mom telling her that Percy would not be allowed back next year. The boy's mood lifted, but just a little bit. Naruto could tell Percy missed his mom because he hated that fact that she was with Gabe of all people. The kid was homesick, no surprise there. He felt it too. He even wondered when he gets to see his mom, like the scroll said. Naruto sighed as he came to reality. Exam week was come up soon and he, like Percy and Grover, had to study. Like Shikamaru says, it is going to be a drag. Shikamaru raised a brow but shrugged. Scene change. The night before the exams started, Naruto and Percy decided to have a study session at Percy's dorm. Throughout the night, Naruto could see that Percy was getting more and more agitated. Finally he threw his book across the room. "Man, what did that book say to you this time?" Naruto commented, trying livening up the atmosphere. "Sorry, but how the hell am I supposed to know the difference, Kairon and Karen?" Sakura blinked. Hey, do sound different, so what is the problem?" Ino answered, "Problem because he sees the names all scrambled. It's hard to do a written test. It is a miracle that I did as good as I did." Sakura nodded, understanding. "So what is the difference?" Hinata looked ahead and said, "Naruto explains it right here," and read on. "Simple. One has an I and the other has an A in their name." Naruto smartly said with smirk. Sweat drops. Percy slapped his face and gave Naruto a glare. "Okay, let me help you then. Kairon, the one with the I, trains heroes and is a horse's ass. Then we have Karen, the one with the A. He is the fairy man of the dead who would sell his mother for gold." If anything, the sweat drops grew bigger. "That is not helpful," Kiba muttered. Shika sighed, catching the important part. Kairon train heroes and has something to do with horses, maybe a rider or tamer. Karen takes the dead to the afterlife, but you have to pay for it. Jiraiya nodded. "That is pretty much the gist of it. Nice catch." Shikamaru said nothing, wanting nothing more than to take a nap. "Is that how you remember everything? Give it a short description while it could insult them." Percy asked while trying to hide a smirk. "Hey, easier for me to remember stuff like that." Naruto smiled. "Hey, I need one for Zeus. Should I go with ego the size of the sky or skirt chaser?" The two looked at each other before saying at the same time, "Skirt chaser." "Huh?" asked many of the genin in the room. Kakashi chuckled. "Zeus is famous to have many affairs with many women and sire heroes. Naruto is simply giving it a different term for it." The girls scowled at the fact a god was pretty much a womanizer. "But my way might not be best for you. Everyone has a different way of remembering stuff." "Yeah," Percy said. "I can't believe I am saying this, but I think I should go see Mr. Brunner. He might have a way that is good for me." "Want me to come?" Naruto asked. "Yeah, so I don't feel like a total idiot going down there." Percy replied and got up to get his book. Naruto just laughed. "Too late for that man," he said as he ignored Percy's glare. Kiba huffed. "Like you are one to talk, Naruto." The Y walked downstairs to the faculty offices. Most of them were dark and empty, but Mr. Brunner's door was ajar, light from his window stretching across the hallway floor. They were 3 steps from the door handle when the duo heard voices inside the office. Mr. Brunner asked a question. A voice that was definitely Grover's said, "Worried about Percy and Naruto?" "Sir." The boys froze at that. They nodded and leaned in to eavesdrop. Not that they did it a lot, but when a friend is talking about you to a teacher, you'd want to what was going on. "Alone this summer," Grover was saying. "I mean, a kindly one in the school. Now that we know for sure, and they know too." The group blinked. Kindly one. There was nothing kindly about whatever attacked Naruto. "We would only make matters worse by rushing them," Mr. Brunner said. "We need the boys to mature more. But he may not have time. The summer solstice deadline will have to be resolved without them, Grover. Let him enjoy his ignorance while he still can." "Sir." They saw her. "Their imagination," Mr. Brunner insisted. "The mist over the students and staff will be enough to convince them of that." Kurenai thought about it. Maybe. This mist is a natural genjutsu barrier of some kind, and that is why people do not remember Mrs. Drod's. So Grover and Mr. Brunner is behind it are part of the world of the gods. Asuma added. "Sir, I can't fail in my duties again." Grover's voice was choked with emotion. "You know what that would mean. You haven't failed, Grover," Mr. Brunner said kindly. "I should have seen her for what she was. Now let's just worry about keeping Percy and Naruto alive until next fall." The mythology book that Percy had brought with him fell to the floor and Naruto's eyes widened in panic as all went silent. As soon as Percy grabbed the book, Naruto grabbed Percy and they ran for it. Percy saw something larger than Mr. Brunner come out of the room. He steered them to a nearby room to hide for a bit. A few seconds later they heard a slow clop clop clop, like muffled wood blocks, then a sound like an animal snuffling right outside the door. A large, dark shape paused in front of the glass, and then moved on. Both the boys were sweating. That was too close. Somewhere in the hallway, Mr. Brunner spoke. "Nothing," he murmured. "My nerves haven't been right since the winter solstice." "Mine neither," Grover said. "But I could have sworn." "So whatever has happened, it revolves around the winter solstice," Sakura muttered, to which the others nodded. They wished they knew more, but the book did not give any more information, so they kept reading. "Go back to the dorm," Mr. Brunner told him. "You've got a long day of exams tomorrow." "Don't remind me." They heard Grover whine. Iruka chuckled. "Oh, I am sure they are not that bad." As he was not looking at them, he did not notice his students avoiding his eyes. When the lights went off in Mr. Brunner's office went off, they bolted out of the room they were hiding like a bat out hell. When they made it back to Percy's dorm, he locked the door. "Okay, now we know for sure something is going on." "Yeah, but what and who would want us dead? I mean, they talked as if someone was after our heads." Naruto pondered. "Hey, you can stay the night," Percy said. "I mean, you're the ninja here, and if anything happens we would have a better chance at surviving." "Fine with me," Naruto said. He then sighed. "I just hope we survive the exams." Kakashi chuckled. "You think after the Chunin exam he would not think test would be bad?" Kankuro chuckled a bit. He did look rather pale when the first exam came along. Percy paled and then hung his head, once again reminded of the exams and why they went down there in the first place. "I'm so screwed." Then Grover walked in like nothing had happened. "Hey, how are you guys doing on the studying?" When they both hung their heads and didn't say anything, he got worried. "You guys okay?" Naruto answered. "Yep, we're screwed." "At least he admits it," Shino added softly. Scene change. The next afternoon, they finally got out of their 3-hour Latin exam. This caused all the once Academy student Ogo wide-eyed and paled, thinking of having to take such a long test. Konohamaru and his friends glanced at Iruka fearfully, hoping he would never give a test that long. They were relieved when Iruka said, "That long? That must be some test. Maybe too long for my taste though." Ino whispered to Sakura, "I think I would die or jump out the window if I had to go through that." "How did Naruto manage?" "A miracle," Sakura answered. 3 hours of that crazy, inhuman, hell. Naruto complained. "Tests back home were never like this." "Well, the second exam lasts 5 days, but I don't think that counts," Kakashi added, getting glares at that reminder. My eyes are swimming with all the Greek and Roman names that I misspelled. Percy complained as he held his head. Unfortunately, Mr. Brunner called them back in. Percy, he said, don't be discouraged about leaving Yancey. It's for the best. He then turned to Naruto and asked, what about you? Well, I am split between staying here for Grover's sake or going wherever Percy goes so he won't be the only new kid. That's nice of him, Kiba said, approving of being loyal to a comrade. Oh, and don't worry, I am used to hopping around. Mostly hopping worlds and trees, but you don't need to know that. When they were talking, Percy was getting annoyed by Nancy Bobofit, who, like some others, was still taking the test. I see, Mr. Brunner commented. I guess this place is not the right place for you boys then. It's only a matter of time. Naruto glanced at Percy sadly to see that Percy was upset. His favorite teacher at this dump OFA school and in front of a whole freaking class was telling him that he couldn't handle it here. This Naruto pissed off. Percy was his best friend in this land after all. No, Mr. Brunner said. Oh, confound it all. What I'm trying to say, you're not normal, Percy, and neither are you, Naruto. That's nothing to be. Iruka frowned. This was supposed to be a teacher. A teacher should be supportive of their students. I can't imagine ever saying something like that to any student, let alone someone like Percy and Naruto. Thanks, he blurted. Thanks a lot, sir, for reminding me. Percy, he called out, but Percy was already out the door. Naruto looked from the door to Mr. Brunner and scowled. Mr. Brunner, maybe you should take some classes about speaking, you need a lot of lessons. Yuto said as he left to chase after his friend. You tell him, Naruto, Iruka muttered. Scene change. On the last day of the term, Naruto watched as Percy shoved his clothes into his suitcase. They tend to the other guys brag about where they were going this summer. Those idiots may be juvenile delinquents, but they were also rich juvenile delinquents. One of them asked Percy and Naruto where they were going. My home in the city for the summer. Percy replied. Same here, Naruto said, scaring Percy since he did know he had arrived yet. When did you get here? Percy asked, still not used to Naruto popping up out of nowhere. Hey, a few minutes ago, man, chuckled Naruto. Oh, Percy replied. So remind me again why I am going with you to your place for the day. Naruto said. Well, you can tell I have been a bit peeved lately and you usually help out when I am in a bad mood. So, I guess I need you to keep me in check because Gabe is going to really piss me off. Choji chuckled as he bit into a chip. It's funny that Naruto would help keep someone in check. He can help make a person feel better but not keep them in check. True, but none of you ever really needed it, Shikamaru added. Keep you from shooting your mouth off, got it? Naruto commented, and then his eyes lit up. You know, I live right in the middle from your apartment to the school. I just noticed that. Good, then you can come over more often. Percy mumbled as they left the school dorms to get on a bus, though he was wondering how Naruto got from his home to school in time for class. Must be a ninja thing. Kiba laughed, wondering how Percy would react to some of the stuff ninja can do that Naruto could not. Scene change. Both boys were dreading how they were going to say goodbye to Grover, but luckily for them, he was on the bus they were on. The whole bus ride, they saw that Grover was very fidgety, like he was expecting something to come out the works to come after him or them. He was like this every time they left the school campus. Odd. He must be expecting another attack. Kakashi noticed. Guy nodded, ever on the lookout for his friends. This Grover is burning with the flames of youth. Though Percy was getting annoyed by it and he blurted out, looking for kindly ones. Naruto smacked his head while Grover nearly jumped out of his seat. Wah, what do you mean? They boy confessed about eavesdropping on his and Mr. Brunner's conversation the night before the exams. Grover's eye twitched. How much did you hear? Oh, not much. What's the summer solstice deadline? Percy asked. Is that too much for you to handle? Naruto smirked. He winced. Look, guys, I was just worried for you, see? I mean, hallucinating about demon math teachers. Grover, dude, and I was telling Mr. Brunner that maybe you guys were overstressed or something, because there was no such person as Mrs. Dodds, and, dude, you suck at lying. Naruto blurted out, making Grover sputter and his ear turn pink. Busted. Hiba chuckled, getting laughed from the Konohamaru Corp. From his shirt pocket, he fished out a couple of grubby business cards. Just take this, okay? In case you need me this summer. The card was in fancy script, which was murder on their dyslexic eyes, but they finally made out something like, Grover Underwood. Keeper. Half-Blood Hill, Long Island, New York 800-009-0009. So we are right, Ino muttered. But what is a keeper? Hinata glanced down and found a footnote that appeared. It says that keepers are those that travel the country looking for half-bloods and bring them to camp safely. The group blinked, then they gave Grover their pity for having to deal with Naruto and try and protect him with his stubborn nature. What's half? Percy started. Don't say it aloud, he yelped. That's my, summer address. That made Naruto roll his eyes. He didn't buy that for a minute, but his friendship with Grover stopped him from saying so. Percy looked a little sad. That even Grover had a summer home like the other people at school. At least Naruto is like me and lives close. Okay, he said glumly. So, like, if I want to come visit your mansion. Did he not pay attention to the card? Asked Shikamaru, annoyed at Percy for being such a drag. I doubt he lives in a mansion. He nodded. Or if you need me. Why would I need you? Percy growled out harshly, surprising even Naruto. Grover blushed right down to his Adam's apple. Look, Percy, the truth is, I kind of have to protect you, both of you. He said, making the boys look at him oddly. We the ones who had to protect him in the school. Grover, Percy said, what exactly are you protecting us from? Before he could answer, there was a huge grinding noise under our feet. Black smoke poured from the dashboard and the whole bus filled with a smell like rotten eggs. The driver cursed and limped the Greyhound bus over to the side of the highway. Man, rotten luck, Konohamaru said, crossing his arms. Stuck in the middle of nowhere. After a few minutes clanking around in the engine compartment, the driver announced that they'd all have to get off. Percy, Naruto, and Grover filed outside with everybody else. They were on a stretch of country road, no place you would notice if you didn't break down there. Hey, that's what I said, Konohamaru exclaimed. On our side of the highway was nothing but maple trees and litter from passing cars. On the other side, across 4 lanes of asphalt shimmering with afternoon heat, was an old-fashioned fruit stand. Couldn't we break down somewhere with more shade? Naruto commented while hitting the back of his head on the bus. Raising an eyebrow, he took a look at the fruit stand on the other side of the street. The stuff on sale looked really good. Heaping boxes of blooded cherries and apples, walnuts and apricots, jugs of cider in a clawfoot tub full of ice. There were no customers, just 3 old ladies sitting in rocking chairs in the shade of a maple tree, knitting the biggest pair of socks they'd ever seen. These were no ordinary socks, they were as big as sweaters. Who wears socks that big? The lady on the right knitted one of them. The lady on the left knitted the other. The lady in the middle held an enormous basket of electric blue yarn. All 3 women looked ancient, with pale faces wrinkled like fruit leather, silver hair tied back in white bandanas, bony arms sticking out of bleached cotton dresses. Konohamaru glanced at his friends, who glanced back at him. Were these the ladies they met before? The creepy thing is that they were staring right at Percy and Naruto. Talk about creepy, Naruto commented. Hey Grover. Whatever Naruto was going to ask died in his throat seeing Grover. You okay, man? Percy asked when he saw Grover's face. What wrong now? Konkuro asked. Tamari rolled her eyes at her brother stupidly. Shut up and we will find out. They looked at Grover to see that all the color had drained out of him. That and his nose was twitching. Tell me, are they looking at you too? They are, aren't they? Yeah, weird, huh? You think those socks would fit me? Asked Percy in a joking manner. Not likely, Naruto replied, getting really freaked out. I think they would fit Gamabunta though. Big socks, Jiraiya muttered. Maybe they would be kind enough to make a pair for him. He added as a joke which no one found very funny. Not funny, you two. Not funny at all. Grover whined. What is eating you? Naruto asked. Grover only pointed to the old ladies. The old lady in the DLE took out a huge pair of scissors, gold and silver, long-bladed, like shears. They heard Grover catch his breath. "We're getting on the bus," he told them. "Come on." "What?" Percy said. "It's 1,000 degrees in there. You actually like the heat, Grover. When you are hot you smell like a wet barn animal." Naruto asked, complained. Kiba gagged hearing this. He hated that smell and he had to it a lot when it rains and it is his turn to care for the kennels. "Come on." He pried open the door and climbed inside while his friends stay back for a bit. Across the road, the old ladies were still watching them. The middle one cut the yarn, which they could hear that snip across 4 lanes of traffic. Her 2 friends balled up the electric blue socks, leaving them wondering who they could possibly be for. Probably for Bigfoot, or the Jersey Devil, who, almost everyone asked. Naruto rolled his eyes and climbed into the bus. "Come on, let go see Grover before he wets himself." At the rear of the bus, the driver wrenched a big chunk of smoking metal out of the engine compartment, the bus shuddered, and the engine roared back to life and everyone cheered. "Darn right," yelled the driver. He slapped the bus with his hat. "Everybody back on board." "Took him long enough," Naruto drawled as he walked to the back with Percy. "It's not his fault," Kurenai said. "And he did manage to fix it." Tsunade and Jiraiya stayed quiet, feeling that there was more to that than meets the eye. Once the bus got going, Percy got all feverish like he got the flu while Naruto started sweating and complaining about the heat. Grover was not any better, but he was chatting his teeth like he was cold. "Grover?" asked Percy. "Yeah, what are you not telling us?" "A lot of information, I am sure," Shino said. Grover dabbed his forehead with his shirt sleeve. "Percy, Naruto, what did you 2 see back at the fruit stand?" "A few old ladies with way too much free time," Naruto replied while putting a hand on his forehead and wiping off the sweat. "Yeah," Percy smirked but lost it at Grover's serious face. "Wait, they're not like Miss Dodds, are they?" "I don't think so," Neji said, thinking it over. "If they were, I do not doubt they would hesitate in attacking them." "Then who were they?" Tenten asked. "I don't think they are harmless old ladies." The look he gave them made it seem worse. "What could be worse? Just tell me what you saw." The middle one took out her scissors, and she cut the yarn. Percy shrugged, like it was nothing. Grover closed his eyes and made a gesture with his fingers that might have been crossing himself. But it wasn't. It was something else, something almost older. "Now that is odd," he said. "You saw her snip the cord. Tell me it didn't happen." "Yeah, so," Percy replied, getting the feeling like it was something big. "This is not happening," Grover mumbled. He started chewing at his thumb. "I don't want this to be like the last time." "Last time," Shikamaru pondered. "A failed mission perhaps." Single quote. "What last time?" the boys asked, getting freaked out as much as Grover was now. "Always 6th grade. They never get past 6th. Grover mumbled to himself again. "Grover," Percy said, because he was really starting to get scared. "What are you talking about?" "Let me walk you 2 home from the bus station. Promise me." This seemed like a strange request, but they promised he could. "It is no problem. I am going over to his place anyway." Naruto replied. Is this like a superstition or something?" Percy asked, but got no answer. "Grover, that snipping of the yarn. Does that mean somebody is going to die?" He looked at the 2 mournfully, like he was already picking the kind of flowers that would be best on their coffins. "That's a cheerful thought," Tenten muttered. That is when the cogs of Naruto's mind started churning and rapidly. "Don't hurt yourself, Naruto," laughed Kiba, which got a frown from Hinata and many others. The things that have been happening lately and all the Greek mythology they had been learning finally caught up to him. Those 3 old crones were something that he paled at. "Oh crud. What?" Percy said, freaked out that Naruto was scared now. "Fate, or in this case fates do exist," Naruto replied, while Percy and Grover gawked at him. "If Neji was here he would never let me live this down." Neji paused hearing this before he smiled softly. "Well, it is not the same, but I will have to remember this the next time I see Naruto." Hinata marked the book, and this is it. Who would like to read next? Chapter 4. He had his hand up at once, wanting to see how youthful Naruto would be. But Kakashi reached over and took the book and opened it up to the next chapter. Chapter 4. A Trip and Some Strange Dreams. The of bus ride they listened to Grover freak out to himself the whole way. So it was not a surprise that when it was over that Grover had to go to the restroom. Okay, why is that not a surprise? Tenton asked. You see, when Grover get upset, his bladder act up. And by act up he means a gallon of water going through a little just getting potty trained. So when Grover went to the bathroom at the bus station, the boys quickly got away. Percy hailed a cab and they jumped in. Sakura frowned. It was not like Naruto to leave a friend behind like that, especially when they were scared like Grover seems to be. East 104th and 1st, Percy told the driver. While Naruto made the shadow clone hand sign, Percy looked at him oddly when nothing happened. What was that about? As he yellow cab drove them away from the bus station. Naruto replied, I made one outside. You know Grover will freak out as he had been about not being able to protect you. Besides, I think it is time he knows what I can do. Percy gave Naruto a small smile and said, you know you are going to give him a heart attack. At least he left something behind, Choji muttered. Imagine if Naruto was not there. How would Grover react to find his friend missing? He would panic, even more than he is now. Kiba guessed getting a bark from Akamaru. Naruto gave Percy a smirk as they traveled to his mom's apartment. Along the way, Percy told Naruto all about his mom. My mom's name is Sally Jackson and she is the best person in the world. That also proves my theory that the best people have the rottenest luck. Percy said as Naruto nodded, having heard that from him a few weeks ago. That can't be true, can it? Ino asked. The others shrugged, not really sure how to answer that. Grover got out of the bathroom and looked around for Percy and Naruto. He only saw Naruto with his arms crossed. Hey Naruto, where is Percy? He went home. Naruto replied, making Grover's eyes widen. Don't worry though, I am with him. Iruka shook his head fondle at Naruto's antics. He was not one for beating around the bush most of the time. What? How can that be possible? You were right here. Grover freaked. Grover, Mr. Brunner was right. Percy is not normal and in a sense, neither am I. Naruto explained, making Grover sweat under the blonde's gaze. Weird stuff has been going on lately and it has been going on most of Percy's life. Me on the other hand, I think that stuff is a bit normal, the thing with people trying to kill you. Naruto then looked around them to see that the bus station was completely empty. Everyone had left a while ago. I know I am not normal because I have powers that normal humans don't have. Remember that, Grover, because that helped me protect Percy like you want. With that, Naruto disappeared in a poof of white smoke. Grover had a look of pure shock on his face. By the gods, poor Grover, Lee muttered, such a youthful friend all alone and confused. His Amits gave him a deadpan look while Guy nodded. The unknown demigod duo made it to Percy's apartment and paid. Percy looked up at the apartment nervously and said, Naruto, are you sure want to come in? Smelly Gabe is a real jerk and he will not be any different to you. Naruto smiled with a bit of annoyance. Yeah, Percy, you told me about your mom and all her history and I still can't figure why she is with this Gabe. Don't worry, I won't anger him much. You know me, that's why he's saying that, Kakashi added, unable to help himself. Gaara smirked slightly, knowing his friend's antics. I know that why I'm asking. I'm just getting a bad feeling about this, Percy said as they entered the building, hoping his mom would be home from work. Instead, Smelly Gabe was in the living room, playing poker with his buddies. The television blared ESPN. Chips and beer cans were strewn all over the carpet. Wow, it is worse than I expected, and I expected something bad. Naruto thought with a deadpanned expression. Sakura and Ino felt like gagging at how the man lived. What a pig, they both thought. Hardly looking up, Gabe said around his cigar, so, you're home. Who is your loser friend? Naruto, where's my mom? Percy replied shortly. Working, he said. You got any cash? That made Percy rolled his eyes. What, no, welcome back. Good to see you. How has your life been the last 6 months? Figures. Percy noticed that Gabe had put on weight. He looked like a tuskless walrus in thrift store clothes. He had about 3 hairs on his head, all combed over his bald scalp, as if that made him handsome or something. This guy managed the electronics mega mart in Queens, but he stayed home most of the time. It was a wonder why he hadn't been fired long before. He just kept on collecting paychecks, spending the money on cigars that made Percy nauseous, and on beer, of course, always beer. Whenever Percy was home, he expected him to provide his gambling funds. He called that their guy's secret, meaning, if he told his mom, he would punch his lights out. Of course Naruto knew, as he had told him along the way. Naruto was not happy about that. The others looked confused. Why would anyone marry someone like him? I don't have any cash, Naruto heard Percy tell him, which made the man raise a greasy eyebrow. Percy had told Naruto that the man could smell money but not much else, which was very odd. You took a taxi from the bus station, he said. Probably paid with a 20. Got $6-7 in change. Somebody expects to live under this roof. He ought to carry his own weight. Am I right, Eddie? I would say he would have to do the same, Konkuro started, but I doubt he can even get up from a chair with how big he seems. Some of the guys laughed and you could see the grins on some of the girls. Eddie, the super of the apartment building, looked at Percy with a twinge of sympathy. Come on, Gabe, he said. The kid just got here. Am I right? Gabe repeated. Eddie scowled into his bowl of pretzels. The other two guys, Naruto noticed, passed gas in harmony. Nice. Keep a deadpan in his head. He would give Naruto his pity for the smell if the genin did not force him to smell his own fart. Fine, Percy said. He dug a wad of dollars out of his pocket and threw the money on the table. I hope you lose. Before anything could be said or done, Naruto put a hand on Percy's shoulder and the money. Percy looked at Naruto oddly before he noticed the gleam in Naruto's eye. Oh, Gabe was so screwed. How is it you can smell money and not the fact you need about a dozen showers? Naruto added, ignoring the glare and sniggers. How about I play? You can take my money if I lose. Percy smirked. He knew from experience, and a lot of others at school too, that Naruto never lost at card games. No matter how hard some of them try and cheat, and he didn't even know how to play some of them. Tsunade blinked. Is that true? The Shikamaru, Choji and Kiba nodded, as they played a few games with Naruto and he was very lucky in most games. Yeah, it was weird. At first he was not that good, but he was new to a game so we didn't hold that against him. Then one day, he somehow got super lucky almost overnight. Tsunade gained a grin on her face. If he ever come back I will have to take him gambling with me. Shizune had a feeling of what her master was grinning about inside. What, a brat like you, Gabe said, eyeing Naruto, still mad about the shower comment, and the fact his poker buddies found it funny. Afraid of being beat by a kid, Naruto smirked. Besides, I got a few $100. Are you going to pass up on that? That got Gabe's attention. Even though he was mad, Naruto did have money. He would win it from this brat and rub it in his face. Fine. Sit down and play. Good. Naruto sat down and leaned over to Percy. This will be over soon. You should get settled in. It is your place after all. He's screwed, almost everyone thought. As the game began, Percy nodded and left. He would wait for Gabe to lose to Naruto. He slammed the door to his room, which really wasn't his room. During school months, it was Gabe's study, and he uses that term loosely. The man didn't study anything in there except old car magazines, but Gabe loved shoving Percy's stuff in the closet, leaving his muddy boots on my windowsill, and doing his best to make the place smell like his nasty cologne and cigars and stale beer. Percy dropped his suitcase on the bed. Home sweet home. Oh joy. I'm surprised his mom can stand him doing that, Ino Mew. Ttered, unable to imagine her room being like that. As he thought about other stuff, he didn't know how much time had passed. He walked to his door in time to hear two things. Gabe's crying out, which he knew from experience that it was the cry of a loser, and his mom calling him. It seemed that she was home now. I think this day just got better. She opens the door and looked at Percy with a smile on her face. Oh, Percy. She hugged him tightly. I can't believe it. You've grown since Christmas. Thanks, Mom, Percy said. Her red, white and blue Sweet on America uniform smelled like the best things in the world. Chocolate, licorice, And all the other stuff she sold at the candy shop in Grand Central. She'd brought him a huge bag of free samples, the way she always did when he came home. Choji drooled at the thought of his mother bringing home treats from a candy store. Konohamaru and his friends were also drooling as they all at the same thought, lucky. So who is your friend OU? Chi there that is beating everyone at poker so badly. Oh, that is Naruto Uzumaki. He is a good friend from school. Percy replied. Good to know you have a friend. Sally Jackson said softly as she hugged him again. Percy then began to tell her all about his school year at Yancey Academy. It seriously was not as bad as the headmaster said it was. He didn't really tell her much about the museum because it still freaked him out. Did something scare you? No, Mom. Percy lied. But whatever happened seemed to revolve around both me and Naruto. He said, making her eyes widen. So, Percy found a friend like himself. That is good because if he ever got to that world, he would really need a friend. Mrs. Jackson thought to herself. The others frown at this. It sounds like half-bloods had a really rough life. From the other room, Gabe yelled, Hey, Sally, how about some bean dip, huh? Figures, even if he is beaten, he is still a jerk. Percy thought while grinding his teeth. Oh, never mind. Your brat of a friend got it for us. Came Gabe's voice again. Percy gave a weak smile when he heard that. I so owe you for this, Naruto. The others got smiles of their own knowing Naruto would help Percy out like that. I have a surprise for you, Sally said. We're going to the beach. Percy's eyes widened. Montauk. Where? 3 nights same cabin. When? She smiled. As soon as I get changed. He couldn't believe it. They hadn't been to Montauk the last 2 summers, because Gabe said there wasn't enough money. He then looked at her hopeful and said, Can Naruto come too? He can. Hey, I am sure from all the money he took from Gabe. She laughed and nodded her head. I don't see the problem with that. Kakashi chuckled slightly. Well, at least Naruto might be able to enjoy himself at the beach. With that they left his room and walked out to see a steaming Gabe and a smirking Naruto with a bunch of bills in front of him. Gabe's friends were looking at Naruto like he was the holy god of poker. Gabe looked at them and regains his composure and said, You were in there a long time. Oh, we were just talking about the trip. Sally said happily. Gabe's eyes got small. The trip? You mean you were serious about that? Quote, I knew it, Percy muttered. He won't let us go. Of course he will, his mom said evenly. Your stepfather is just worried about money, that's all. Several of the adults caught how Sally spoke about Gabe. Stepfather. It made it sound like she did not have that much feeling for him. This also brought some confusion as well as to why she was with him then. Besides, she added, Gabriel won't have to settle for bean dip. I'll make him enough 7-layer dip for the whole weekend. Guacamole, sour cream, the works. Choji imagined such a dip and growled OU. Tea at just a tasty sounding meal was wasted on a jerk like Gabe. Gabe softened a bit. So this money for your trip, it comes out of your clothes budget, right, because I lost most of mine to this. Brat, the fat man said while jutting his pudgy finger at Naruto, who had an innocent look on his face. He had his palms together as if he was praying and Percy could have sworn he saw a glowing golden halo. He wishes, muttered almost everyone except for the Konohamaru Corp. And Gaara. Gaara smiled knowing Naruto might not be innocent in that regards he was better than most people. Yes, honey, Sally said. And you won't take my car anywhere but there and back. We'll be very careful. Gabe scratched his double chin. Maybe if you hurry with that 7-layer dip, and maybe if the kid apologizes for interrupting my poker game. Maybe if I kick you in your soft spot, Percy thought. And make you sing soprano for a week. I would, almost every genin agreed. He looked to his mom and it was a silent agreement that he had to be nice to Gabe if this was going to work. I'm sorry, Percy muttered. I'm really sorry I interrupted your incredibly important poker game. Please go back to it right now. Gabe narrowed his eyes, trying to detect sarcasm in what Percy said. Yeah, whatever. He then turned to Naruto. No more for you, ever. Go away. Kiba laughed. What a sore loser. You weren't much better, Shikamaru reminded him. You almost bet Akamaru to him and would have lost had your mother not caught you. Kiba scowled at both the reminder and the memory of the lecture his her gave him for treating Akamaru like that. Naruto just shrugged and walked over to Percy and his mom. "Oh, Naruto, would you like to come with us?" she asked. Sure. Are you sure you want someone like me on board?" "Yes. You are Percy's friend after all, so you must be a good kid," Sally replied, making Gabe rolled his eyes. "Okay then. I hope you don't mind me paying for my stuff since I now have quite a bit of money," Naruto said, pocketing his money, which was about $500. He smirked when he heard Gabe complain about having to pay for Naruto's trip. "Thank you," Sally said with a smile because she heard it too. "Once we get to Montauk, we'll talk more about whatever you've forgotten to tell me, okay?" she said to Percy. Naruto just knew that he told his mom about a little of what happened. "Oh Naruto, do we need to go to your place for you to pack?" Before Gabe could complain, Naruto replied, "Nah, I got my stuff with me. Since I hung out at Percy's dorm at lot, I hardly ever went home to my apartment. Which is the halfway point from here to school." Jiraiya raised a brow, wondering where Naruto kept all of his gear. Maybe he actually was listening when I was going over seals for him. "Oh, okay then, Mrs. Jackson said, thinking that Naruto probably left his stuff somewhere near here. She then gave Percy a smile and went to make the dip for the fat dip. An hour later, they were all ready to go. Naruto had a backpack on now and Sally wondered where it had come from. Percy just smiled. "If only you knew, Mom." Jiraiya nodded, seeing his hunch was correct. Gabe watch. D as Naruto and Percy put all the bags in the car. The ugly man groaned about losing his wife's cooking and then his car all weekend, which, unlike him, was cool. It was a 78 Camaro. "Is that good, you?" Don asked, raising his hand as if it was class. The others were not sure how to answer him. "Not a scratch on this car, brain boy, poker brat," he warned them as they loaded the last bag. "Not one little scratch." Naruto just gave him a one-fingered salute as the fat man lumbered back in the apartment. "A one finger what?" Kiba asked. Asuma was about to tell Kiba what that meant when Kurenai stopped him with a glare. "I rather not deal with any more antics of Kiba, so do give him anything to work with," she whispered harshly. He knew that Gabe really pissed Percy off and he now understood why. He was getting pissed at this guy as well, and he just met the guy. He then saw Percy make that odd gesture that Grover did on the bus, and whatever he did worked because as soon smelly Gabe was in the doorway. The screen door slammed shut and probably sent the man flying. "What was that?" Konohamaru asked, but the others were not sure how to answer. The two boys quickly got in the car and Percy told his mom to step on it as they didn't want to feel Gabe's wrath. After a bit, Naruto could not help but laugh at what he was happened. Though, that weird gesture Percy used had energy similar to chakra. Kakashi stopped reading for a second. Perhaps these half-bloods are capable of learning jutsu. Jiraiya shrugged. "Perhaps, but there is no one to really teach them. Only Naruto knows and Stu, and they should not have enough chakra to even do much." Kakashi nodded his head before he went back to reading. Once they got there, Naruto smiled as he loved places like this. They set their FF in the cabin that they got and messed around till it was dark out. They were currently sitting around a small fire, roasting hot dogs and marshmallows. "Mom, what was my father like?" Percy asked with some courage. "He was kind, Percy," she said. "Tall, handsome, and powerful. But gentle, too. You have his black hair, you know, and his green eyes." She fished a blue jelly bean out of her candy bag. "I wish he could see you, Percy. He would be so proud." Percy looked a little sad at that. Naruto thought that the kid was thinking about how his father would be proud of him with all that happened. Well, he did defeat a scary-looking monster, Sakura remembered. Maybe that is something he can be proud of even if Naruto helped him. "How old was I?" Percy asked. "I mean, when he left." She watched the flames. "He was only with me for one summer, Percy. Right here at this beach. This cabin even. But he knew me as a baby." "No, honey. He knew I was expecting a baby, but he never saw you. He had to leave before you were born," she said, and then looked to Naruto, who had been silent for the conversation. "Naruto, what are your parents like?" The others winced hearing this. They never asked, as they knew he did not have parents and did not want to bring the painful subject up. The adults that knew Naruto's parents winced because of how Artemis would react to seeing how her son has been treated. Naruto chuckled a bit, but it was hollow. I am an orphan. I never really knew my parents. But I was given some stuff of my mother's. She had a journal that described my dad. It said he was a fighter, a genius in the art. He was considered the best there was. No one really wanted to fight him if they could help it, and those that were dumb enough to were beat into the ground. From what it said, he sounds pretty cool. That made Percy chuckle a bit, and his mom had a big smile on her face. I am sorry about that, Sally said. Who is taking care of you? Don't be. My grandfather was taking care of my before he died, Naruto said, not wanting to tell them that he was killed. But I have been doing pretty well on my own anyway. The group had a moment of silence for the deceased third Hokage. It was no secret that Naruto saw the old Kage as a grandfather. Hell, a lot of the villagers did, and they knew it hit him pretty hard. Then Percy had a sad look. He didn't know if his mom even wanted him around. He didn't think he could handle being alone like Naruto. Are you going to send me away again? Percy asked her. To another boarding school. She pulled a marshmallow from the fire. I don't know, honey. Her voice was heavy. I think we'll have to do something. Because you don't want me around. But he regretted the words as soon as they were out. The girls all growled, unable to believe Percy said something like that to his mother. Her eyes welled with tears. She took his hand, squeezed it tight. Oh, Percy, no. I have to, honey. For your own good, I have to send you away. This made Naruto quirk an eyebrow. Okay. The way she is saying this means she knows something like Grover and Mr. Brunner. It does sound like it, Asuma muttered. Because I'm not normal, Percy suddenly said. You say that as if it's a bad thing, Percy. But you don't realize how important you are. I thought Yansei Academy would be far enough away. I thought you'd finally be safe. Safe from what? Percy asked, though when he locked eyes with her, all the memories of weird things happening to him had surfaced. It can't be that safe if some crazy monster could appear out of nowhere and attack him. Ino added, glad she never had to deal with any issue like that. Before anything else was said, Naruto cut in. Percy, not being normal is not that bad. I mean, look at me. I have this powers and I am fine. Mrs. Jackson looked at him oddly and he sighed, knowing that he would have to show her. He held out his hand and swirling ball of energy formed in his hand. Percy's eyes widened and said, you never showed that one to me, only those shadow clones. And for good reason, Jiraiya added, the Rasengan is not a jutsu to be taken lightly. It can cause some major damage. The other genin looked at him, wondering how powerful that attack can be. Shadow. Could he be just like Percy, a son of the Big Three? Sally thought as she eyed the ball before it dissipated. Big Three? Sakura asked aloud. Tsunade nodded. That is that they call the three eldest gods, Hades, the firstborn son, Poseidon the second-born, and Zeus the last-born child. They have 3 sisters as well, but the Big Three are the strongest of the gods, they say. She gave Naruto a grateful look and continued on. I've tried to keep you as close to me as I could, she said to Percy. They told me that was a mistake. But there's only one other option, Percy, the place your father wanted to send you. And I just can't stand to do it. My father wanted me to go to a special school. Not a school, she said softly. A summer camp, and apparently it is a place you both need to go to. Both boys just looked at her oddly. Naruto never heard anything about a camp in the letter he got from his mom. I'm sorry, Percy, she said, seeing the look in his eyes. But I can't talk about it. I couldn't send you to that place. It might mean saying goodbye to you for good. For good. But if it's only a summer camp, Percy trailed off as he saw the tears in his mom's eyes. Something must be up with that summer camp if she is worried like that, Iruka muttered, getting nodes all around. As storming out, but both boys were sound asleep and they were having strange dreams. It was storming on the beach, and 2 beautiful animals, a white horse, and a golden eagle, were trying to kill each other at the edge of the surf. The eagle swooped down and slashed the horse's muzzle with its huge talons. The horse reared up and kicked at the eagle's wings. As they fought, the ground rumbled, and a monstrous voice chuckled somewhere beneath the earth, goading the animals to fight harder. Percy ran toward them, knowing he had to stop them from killing each other, but the problem was that he was running in slow motion. He knew he would be too late. He saw the eagle dive down, its beak aimed at the horse's wide eyes. The boy had enough and screamed, "No." "Okay, what was that about?" Sakura asked. Kakashi noticed a footnote appearing on the bottom of the page. The eagle is Zeus's sacred animal as the house is Poseidon's. The dreams show the two showing the two gods were fighting one another. The sky fighting with the sea, that can't be good. Jiraiya muttered, having the feeling that Naruto was going to be in the middle of all of this. Naruto's was different. He was standing alone in a rainbow-colored mist. It swirled around as he heard someone in the distance. It was hard to hear what they were saying. It was as if they were talking over a bad radio. "Rutu, Naruto." He looked out trying to see anything. Then he could barely make out a woman's silhouette. And as he could feel himself leaving the dream, he heard the words, "My son." The group paused at Naruto getting some sort of message from his mother. They woke up with a start like it was a nightmare. Outside, it really was storming, the kind of storm that cracks trees and blows down houses. There was no horse, eagle, or Mr. Woman on the beach. Just lightning making false daylight, and 20-foot waves pounding the dunes like cannon fire. With the next thunderclap, Percy's mom awoke. She sat up, eyes wide, and said, "Hurricane." Percy knew that was crazy. Long Island never sees hurricanes this early in the summer. But the ocean seemed to have forgotten this fact. Over the roar of the wind, he heard a distant bellow, an angry, tortured sound that made his hair stand on end. Then a much closer noise, like mallets in the sand. A desperate voice, someone yelling, pounding on our cabin door. "Mrs. Jack." Sun sprang out of bed in her nightgown and threw open the lock. Grover stood framed in the doorway against a backdrop of pouring rain. But he wasn't exactly Grover. How did Grover manage to find them? Kiba asked, wondering about the boy's tracking skills. "And what do you mean he is not, exactly?" "Grover, if you would let me read, then we can find out," Kakashi added before he went back to reading. "Searching all night," he gasped. "What were you two thinking?" Mrs. Jackson looked at them in terror, not scared of Grover, but of why he'd come. They boy were too shocked at the moment to register that. However, because, instead of normal legs, Grover had legs that were like an animal's, sort of like a donkey or maybe a goat. Almost everyone were shocked at this. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Kakashi nodded as they suspected something was up about Grover. "What the hell?" Kankuro asked in disbelief. "Percy," she said, shouting to be heard over the rain. "What happened at school? What didn't you tell me?" "Ozu kai alloy theo I." Grover yelled. "It's right behind me. Didn't you tell her?" "You mean the kindly one you blabbed about, or the old crones who are the fates?" Naruto shouted above the noise, making Percy's mom widen her eyes in horror. Sakura sighed, annoyed at Naruto being too blunt about the situation. If she was there, she would hit him over the head for his stupidity. The others noticed that Mrs. Jackson knew more of the world of the gods than the two boys knew, at least. She grabbed her purse, tossed Percy and Naruto a rain jacket, and said, "Get to the car. All of you, go." Grover ran for the Camaro, but he wasn't running, exactly. He was trotting, shaking his shaggy hindquarters, and suddenly his story about a muscular disorder in his legs made sense to me. That would explain how he could run so fast and still limp when he walked. "Yep, we have gone insane," Naruto mumbled. "But what is coming after us?" He never got an answer because Grover quickly got in the car, not hearing him. He sighs and got in, going with the flow. "That's what we also want to know," Neji added, hoping his friend will be all right. Konohamaru stood up from his seat. "Whatever it is, boss will be able to handle it," he cried out in full confidence. Lee pumped his fist. "Yosh. Naruto shall no doubt show his flames of youth." May I read next to see our friend in action? Chapter 5. Kakashi glanced at Lee before looking at the book. While he did not see any harm in letting Lee have his turn, he figured it might actually calm Guy's mini-me down. "Sure," Kakashi said simply as he held out the book. Lee cheered as he took the book, and concentrating he found the page they were on. Chapter 5. Hell of a Rodeo. The others blinked. "That sounds Ominous, Kiba muttered. Sakura sighed. What trouble has Naruto gotten himself into now? The group tore through the night along dark country roads. Wind slammed against the Camaro. Rain lashed the windshield. The boys honestly didn't know how Percy's mom could see anything. But she kept her foot on the gas. Naruto looked at Grover oddly, and when the lightning flashed, he saw those goat legs. He sighed, already knowing what he was, and knew that Grover was on their side. Hopefully. So, you and my mom know each other? Percy asked, not able to stay silent. It doesn't seem like it, Asuma said, thinking it over. It's more of she knows of Grover or what his mission is than anything else. Grover's eyes flitted to the rearview mirror, though there were no cars behind them. Not exactly, he said. I mean, we've never met in person. But she knew I was watching you. Watching me. Keeping tabs on you. Making sure you were okay. But I wasn't faking being your friend, he added hastily. I am your friend. What are you, exactly? Percy asked. Sakura frowned. That seems rude even if his friend looks different. I could never ask Ino, what are you? Before I found out she is a half-blood. She blinked. I guess I would do the same for Naruto. I really need to make up for some of the things I said to him. That doesn't matter right now. It doesn't matter. From the waist down, my best friend is a donkey. Grover let out a sharp, throaty, blah ha ha. Naruto could tell that Grover a bit ticked, but he still laughed. That was really funny to him. Naruto's friends sighed at this. Of course he would. Gaara sat there, confused about what was so funny to his friend. Goat. Grover cried. What? Once getting himself under control, Naruto helped the poor guy out. Percy. He is a satyr, a being that is half human and half goat. Huh, but, you would mean Mr. Brunner's myths. You paid attention to that. Naruto smirked. No wonder the world is ending. We would say the same to you, Naruto, Kiba muttered. Percy just glared at him. Okay. Anyway, with the way Grover reacted, I am assuming that other satyr would trample you for that donkey remark. I thought it didn't matter. Percy shot back while Grover bleated again. Apparently it does, Naruto replied with a smirk. Wait, so all that Mr. Brunner taught us was actually preparing us for this stuff? Pretty much, Grover said. Great, Naruto replied sarcastically. Just what we need. Freaky monsters coming after us. Not only that, but those three old ladies were the Fates and not myths, and neither was Mrs. Dodds. Grover told them. Once Agai and Neji gained a small smile on his face but said nothing. So you admit there was a Mrs. Dodds? Percy exclaimed. Of course. Okay, so what was the point of hiding the fact that she was real? Naruto asked. The less you knew, the fewer monsters you'd attract, Grover said, like that should be perfectly obvious. We put mist over the human's eyes. We hoped you'd think the kindly one was a hallucination. But it was no good. You both started to realize who you are. Wait a minute, what do you mean? Percy asked. Yeah, you lost me after less we knew. Naruto deadpanned. The group all sweat drop here. Wow, just wow. Kankuro muttered aloud. The weird bellowing noise rose up again somewhere behind us, closer than before. Whatever was chasing us was still on our trail. Percy, his mom said. There's too much to explain and not enough time. We have to get you two to safety. Safety from what? Who's after us? Percy asked while Naruto raised an eyebrow. Oh, nobody much, Grover said. Obviously still miffed about the donkey comment. Just the Lord of the Dead and a few of his bloodthirstiest minions. Grover. Sorry, Mrs. Jackson. Could you drive faster, please? Grover replied. What? You mean Hades? Naruto replied, and the ground shook a bit and Grover nodded, a little panicked. Who's Hades? Ino asked. Tsunade answered. Hades is the god of the dead and lord of the underworld or the afterlife in that world. He is the eldest male child of the 6 main gods. We don't know much about him here, but I am sure he also come to the elemental nations to take a break like the others gods do. Great, their version of the Shinigami is after them, Choji said, worried for them. While the boys were trying to wrap their heads around all this madness, Percy's mom made a hard left. They swerved onto a narrower road, racing past darkened farmhouses and wooded hills and pick your own strawberries signs on white picket fences. Where are we going? Percy asked. The summer camp one told you about. His mother's voice was tight. She was trying for Percy's sake not to be scared. The place your father wanted to send you. Okay, what good is a summer camp? Sakura asked. Why call it camp but it is really a training ground for half-bloods. Kakashi said. A safe place to train without monsters attacking them like they would outside of camp. The place you didn't want me to go. Please, dear, his mother begged. This is hard enough. Try to understand. You're in danger. Because some old ladies cut yarn. Percy asked and Naruto sighed. Man, if you paid attention in class why that is bad. Naruto said. When they cut the yarn, that means someone is going to die. Exactly. Grover said. The fact they appeared in front of you too, they only do that when you're about to, when someone's about to die. The others caught the slip and looked at one another. Whoa, you said. You. Percy freaked. No, I didn't. I said. Someone. Grover replied. No, you paused then said someone. Naruto said. Yeah, you meant me. Percy said. I meant you. Like, someone. Not you. You. God. Makes sense, why don't you? Naruto replied. Boys. Percy's mom said. She pulled the wheel hard to the right. And they got a glimpse of a figure she'd swerved to avoid a dark fluttering shape now lost behind them in the storm. The hell was that? Naruto freaked. We're almost there, Mrs. Jackson said, ignoring Naruto's question. Another mile. Please, please, please. They didn't know what there was, but it had to be safe from whatever the hell was chasing them. It is not Mrs. Dodds, that is for sure. Whatever it is, it's bigger and stronger than last time. This is reminding me of the wave mission, only we are fleeing for our lives. Sakura and Kakashi were quite thinking how Naruto would differently be getting into a fight if he got that feeling. The others wondered what this wave mission all about. While Naruto was thinking that, Percy was thinking about the blades Mr. Brunner had thrown to them. Before he could ask Grover about that, the hair rose on the back of my neck. There was a blinding flash, a jaw-rattling boom, and the car exploded. It was odd feelings being blown up, like you were weightless, crushed, burned, and being hosed down all at the same time. Though that last part may have been because of the rain. Hinata gasped, but she was not the only one. Boss, Konohamaru cried out. Everyone else was quite worried for Naruto and the others. Percy pried his forehand off the driver's seat in front of him as his mom called out to him. I'm fine, he said. He heard Naruto mutter out a, never been better, as they noticed the car was still intact because it was in a ditch. Sighs of relief were heard as they found that they were all right. Konohamaru blinked. Hey wait, what happened to Grover? They sighed in relief that they were not dead, not yet anyway. While Naruto was trying to regain his bearings, Percy noticed that Grover looked unconscious. Grover. Food. He groaned. Naruto's sweat dropped at that. Yeah, he was going to be fine. Choji blinked hearing this part. Shikamaru glanced at his friend while Ino snorted and Asuma chuckled. He's just like you, Choji. Loyal to a fault and a fellow food lover. No wonder Naruto gets along with him so well. Choji could not help but smile and actually wanted to meet Grover now. Percy, his mother said. We have to. Her voice faltered, because when the lightning flashed, they saw a huge figure through the mud-splashed window. Hello, Naruto said, surprised. Boys, Percy's mother said, deadly serious. Get out of the car. She tried, the drivers said, but all the mud was blocking their way out. Passengers sighed. Get out now and run to the big tree. She yelled, pointing to a large tree in the distance as they got out. What? Percy replied, confused, until the lightning flashed and a large pine tree in the distance appeared, and that thing was huge. Then Genin and Academy students were all on the edge of their seats. The adults sat still waiting. Come on, Kiba muttered, just tell us what it is already. That's the property line, his mom said. Get over that hill and you'll see a big farmhouse down in the valley. Run and don't look back. Yell for help. Don't stop until you reach the door. Mom, you're coming too. Her face was pale, her eyes as sad as when she looked at the ocean. No, Percy shouted. You are coming with us. Help me carry Grover. Food. Grover moaned, a little louder. Naruto growled and yelled above the rain. Give him to me. We will get there faster that way. Percy nodded and gave Grover to Naruto and turned back to Mom to see the creature coming towards them. It was huge. That and it seemed that it had fur on it. Naruto turned to look at it and yelled, "Holy cow. That is not a cow and there is nothing holy about that it." Mrs. Jackson was able to shout out. Lee blinked, stopping himself from reading. "Huh?" he asked. "Agreed," Shino added. "That does not seem logical." "Go on, Lee," Iruka said, worried for his little brother figure. "Keep reading." Naruto looked at her with a deadpanned expression that said, "Duh," and looked at it again and he saw horns jutting out its head. Yeah, not a cow but a bull. Still, it was not good. "He doesn't want us," Mrs. Jackson called out. "He just wants you too. Besides, I can't cross the property line." "But," Percy and Naruto started to say. "We don't have time. Go, please." This just mad Percy mad and he went over to his mother and helped tea out all the way. "We're going together. Come on, Mom." Naruto just smirked at Percy's stubbornness, just like him in some aspects. "I told you, Mom, I am not leaving you. Come on." They got a portion of the way but the monster was gaining on them and quick. Naruto looked at it again and his eyes widened. "What the hell? Bodybuilders aren't this buff," he said, commenting on all the bulging and rippling muscles on that thing. Percy blinked owlishly, recognizing this creature from Mr. Brunner's class. "That's Pasiphae's son," his mother said. "I wish I'd known how badly they want to kill you. But he's the Min." "Don't say his name," she warned. "Names have power." Kiba could not take it anymore and growled, aggravated and pulling his hair. "Damn it. What the hell is it?" Lee noticed a footnote at the bottom. "Minotaur, a half-M and half-bull monster that was defeated by a hero named Theseus." The others blinked. "Okay, now we got a picture," Sakura muttered. Kiba scoffed. "Please, how bad can it be?" "Terrific. This really is like the Wave mission," Naruto replied, getting odd looks as they ran. "I'll tell y'all later," Naruto replied as they ran. He too knew what this creature was and growled. It was a big brute called the Minotaur. It may be strong but it was dumb if the books were right. The only thing that it could rely on was its sense of smell out in this weather, and it was only a matter of time before it found them. As if on cue, the bull man bellowed in rage. He picked up Gabe's Camaro by the torn roof, the chassis creaking and groaning. He raised the car over his head and threw it down the road. It slammed into the wet asphalt and skidded in a shower of sparks for about half a mile before coming to a stop. The gas tank exploded. "Okay, big deal," Kiba added, but people could tell he was somewhat impressed. Jiraiya glanced his way. "If I recall when I was told of their world, I believe those cars weigh close to 2 tons of metal. And the fact he lifted all of that one-handed, he left that hanging." The other genin gulped hearing this. "All right. I pity Naruto right now," admitted Kiba. He as hell did not want to get hit with an attack that strong. "Oops," Percy said. "Yeah, so much for not a scratch." Naruto laughed a little, freaked out. "That thing is stronger than he looks, and he looked strong to begin with." "Boy," Percy's mom said. "When he sees us, he'll charge. Wait until the last second, and jump out of the way directly sideways. He can't change directions very well once he's charging. Do you understand?" Iruka nodded. "That one smart woman." Konohamaru looked at him with a grin. "Oh, you interested, Iruka-sensei? Maybe the boss can help you out." Iruka sputtered at that with a blush on his face while the others laughed. Konohamaru was one of the loudest before he was hit over the head by his irritated sensei. "Oh, that is useful," Naruto said. "How do you know all this?" Percy asked. "I've been worried about an attack for a long time. I should have expected this. I was selfish, keeping you near me," Mrs. Jackson said sadly. "It's not selfish," Guy said aloud with a rare serious look on his face. The others looked at him. "To want to keep a loved one close to you as long as possible is no weakness, nor selfish. To be without a loved one would be the most unyouthful thing imaginable." He turned to the younger members of the group and gave them his good guy pose. "Remember to keep all those you care about close. That way the flames of youth will never go out." The younger one gave him a deadpan look while Lee jumped to his feet as he also got into the pose. "Guy-sensei, your words have fueled my flames of youth even more." Before both of them could move, they were hit over the head by Tsunade, enough of the youth around here. Your speech was nice guy until you ruined it with that last part. She sighed, rubbing her temples. Lee, finish up before I force you to do no mission expect for catching Tora. And not a peep expect for the story. Lee looked sad at Tsunade, damping his sensei's flames of youth, but got up and went back to reading. Even if he was disgruntled, he still kept the excited tone as he wanted to see his friend fight. What's done is done. Besides, you're a mom, it is natural. Naruto replied while Percy nodded to that statement. But there was another bellow of rage, and the bull man started tromping uphill. Great. Naruto panicked. The bull, man on steroids, had smelled them and was charging in fast. To Naruto, everything was happening in slow motion. He readied himself for what he had to do, gathering some chakra to his legs and tightening his hold on Goat Boy. He patiently waited for the right moment. 20 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet. He saw Mrs. Jackson roll out of the way, but it seemed Percy was waiting too long. So he used his Rehad and pushed him out of harm's way and jumped him into the air, onto the monster's head. The monster seemed miffed by this as it blinked in confusion until he vaguely felt Naruto slamming something onto its head. As Naruto jumped off, the Minotaur heard a faint hissing and then the tag on his forehead exploded. Kakashi chuckled, always doing things your way, Naruto. As Naruto landed the tree, he heard something land near him. It was a broken piece of its horn. Snorting was heard behind him and saw the Minotaur still standing, one horn missing. Naruto saw that its injuries were healing at a fast rate. It turned its head towards Percy and his mother before charging. Naruto growled, he would not let his friend die. So he laid Grover down near the tree and jumped back to Percy. He landed by Percy as his mom got to him. They looked at him oddly again and he said, it is a ninja thing. Come on. Then they ran for their lives to the tree. Naruto wondered why Mrs. Jackson said that. She was not able to get to where they were going. The group paused, wondering what she meant by that. Reaching the hill with the tree, the boys took notice that a valley was below them and it had a farmhouse that had yellow lights glowing in the window. Scowling, Naruto growled, with the way things were going, they would never make it. Run, Percy. Naruto heard Mrs. Jackson call out, I can't go any farther. Run. Sakura held her hands over her mouth with a gasp. No, she muttered. The others had similar thoughts as well. They froze in shock and fear as the Minotaur came rushing up to them. And she tried to get out of the way like last time, but it had learned its lesson last time. It brought out an arm and caught her by the neck while she struggled to get away. Mom, Mrs. Jackson. The boys screamed. She caught Percy's eyes, managed to choke out one last word. Go. Then, with an angry roar, the monster closed his fists around his mother's neck, and she dissolved before their eyes, melting into light. A shimmering golden form, as if she were a holographic projection. A blinding flash and she was simply gone. The group stopped stunned. Then they all bowed their heads in prayer to the brave mother. Again those with mothers promised when they head home to tell them how much they loved them. After they were done, Lee held the book up again and started so they may end the chapter. No, Percy yelled. What the hell is going on? Naruto yelled, irritated about what was going on. Anger overcame Percy and the boys nodded. They would have to try and take this thing down like Mrs. Dodds. It caught sight of Grover and charged after him, intent to finish him off. Let's make this thing into a fresh steak. Naruto yelled while Percy took off his red jacket. Hey you oversized hamburger. Your mother was an underweight milk cow. The others gained deadpan looks at this. Idiot, many of them thought. That got the beast's attention back on them. Percy flung his red jacket around. Like Matador would do as it charged after them. However, he could not jump out of the way like before. He imitated Naruto and jumped upward and went farther than usual somehow. Wonder how he did that as he couldn't chakra like Naruto. He turned his attention back to the bull because it had impacted the tree, its only remaining horn stuck on it. Naruto smirked as he created a swirling ball of energy in his hands and shouted. There was a reason I never showed you this before. It pack a big punch. Rasengan. He slammed the ball into the side of the creature. It flew a few feet away at an odd angle because when it did, its other horn broke off. Percy quickly ripped it out of the ground, hoping to use it as a makeshift weapon. Naruto was about to tell him not to bother with until he saw the Minotaur getting back up. Many of the genin frowned, while Kiba shouted, "Will that thing die already?" Looking in horror, they saw the huge hole in the gut of the beast, but it was healing up quickly. Before they do anything, however, it charged at them again. It swung at Percy and sent him a few feet away, knocking the air out of him. It did the same to Naruto, but he rolled with the blow so it would not do as much damage. Jumping back at it, he activated the seal on his pants, took out a kunai, and threw it into its right eye. It screamed in rage and pain. Seeing that Percy was getting back up, he thought quickly. Normal attacks don't do a lot of damage, but it does have a nasty scar from my Rasengan. Maybe it doesn't heal all the way. What if using its horns will work? He then stabbed the horn into the old wound and it twisted harshly. It cried out in agony when he did that, and it seemed that it was not healing at all. He quickly jumped over it and on its back, stabbing it in the neck. "Percy, stab for the heart, he yelled out, struggling to stay on. "So even chakra can't do anything to these monster?" Sakura asked, knowing Naruto's attack was nothing to walk off. Jiraiya nodded. "Yep, only the bronze metal the half-bloods and gods use can damage them and keep the wounds from healing." Percy seemed to get the idea and quickly ran up to it, avoiding the massive ailing arms that were trying to get Naruto off of it. He stabbed it hard and it cried out before it burst into the same crap misses. Dodds did. Collapsing to his knees, he felt the rush of adrenaline war. Often the feeling of losing his mother was starting to crash down on him. Naruto picked up Percy. They supposed each other until they got to Grover. "Come on, we gotta get to that house, we won't be out of the woods until we do," Naruto said as he threw Grover over his shoulder while the two demigods supported each other as the rain has suddenly stopped. When they got to the pouch, Naruto fell to his knees and it seemed that Percy was barely conscious. The weight of the two and the battle was just now getting to him. I must be weak. I have not fought in a long time." Kakashi and Iruka chuckled here, same old Naruto. Looking up, he saw the familiar face of Mr. Brunner, who was giving them a serious look. He also a very pretty blonde-haired girl, whose hair curled like a princess's. "One of them has to be it. They just have to," the girl said. "Silence, Annabeth," Mr. Brunner said. "They're still conscious. Bring them inside." "Yes, that would be very helpful if you don't mind," Naruto replied weakly, catching them off guard. Going inside, Naruto helped the girl named Annabeth put Percy and Grover on different cots in the room. My name is Annabeth Chase, by the way," the girl said with a small smile. Naruto cracked his back and said with a weak smile, "Naruto Uzumaki, and if you don't mind, I would like to pass out now." Annabeth had wide eyes as she watched put his back to the cot before falling down, out like a light. Choji gave a small laugh which was followed by several others. Tsunade shook her head. "Idiot, causing so much trouble and then passing out before they can get anything out of him." Jiraiya grinned. "Yeah, more in your cause, pass out before you could yell at him. That earned his a punch to the face that sent him across the room. Still never ceases to amaze me," Mr. Brunner suddenly said, shaking his head, making the girl jump. "Which one?" "All three. They protected each other in that school I went to." "Naruto seems to be a natural fighter though," he replied. "But, considering where he's from, I am not surprised." "Where?" "Oh, I am sure he will tell you and the rest of the camp later. Come and get me when one of them wakes," Mr. Brunner said as he left. Now Annabeth was even more curious. "So he knows then," Shikamaru said, to which the sensei nodded. Scene change. Naruto woke up with a start as he bolted up in the bed he was in. That scared the crap out of Annabeth, who had just walked in. Don't do that." "Hey, sorry," Naruto said while scratching the back of his head. He looked at the horn he was still holding and then to Percy, who was still out of it. He brought a hand up to his chin and said, "So all of that did happen?" "Yep," sighed Annabeth. "I still can't believe you two were able to kill that monster." Naruto smirked and said, "Believe it. Anyway, knowing that names have power around here, I will just call it the oversized hamburger." Annabeth stared at Naruto for a long time, making him a bit uncomfortable. Until she let out a laugh, which was followed by another laugh from Mr. Brunner. Good to see you again, old man, Naruto commented. Sakura sighed at Naruto once again showing disrespect. Knowing him, he will do the same to a god. She blinked. No, even he's not that stupid. She gained another deadpan look. He is. Before Annabeth could correct him, Mr. Brunner chuckled and said, Naruto, here I am called Chiron. The look on Naruto was priceless. He was still smiling, but he had the, oh shit, smile. Oh, so where is your horse half? Huh, Kiba asked. It seems that unlike we first believe, Chiron has horse body not unlike that of the Minotaur. Shino replied, fixing his glasses. This is a magical wheelchair to when I want to go out. I use this to hide my true self. The now dubbed Chiron replied. Oh, that makes sense. So, how long was I out? You just got here last night. That is why I said you shouldn't even be up, Annabeth said. Tsunade snorted while Shizune laughed softly. That's the brat for Ye. Can never stay down for long. Even when he should have been resting from an injury. Oh, well, I have always been a really fast healer. I think it's because of the fox. So, he trailed off as he saw Annabeth gave him a look of confusion while Chiron had a serious look on his face. I take it you have no clue what I am talking about. No, the blonde girl said. I have an idea. The fox is known as the nine-tailed fox, correct? Chiron asked. Why yeah, how do you know about that in this world? Naruto asked with narrowed eyes while Annabeth looked even more confused. I hear things when I got to the annual meets of the gods. Some speak about going to a world that is home to warriors with strange powers and monsters known as the tailed beasts, and the nine-tailed fox was the strongest of them all. They saw that it could be as strong as the typhon, Chiron explained. They even spoke of people who were forced at birth to hold these beasts in their bodies via a seal, and you were one of them. Yeah, so what of it? Naruto asked. Only a demigod can handle the power of the nine-tailed fox within their body. It is too strong to be sealed into anything else. So, what would happen if it wasn't a half-blood? Ino asked. The adults looked at one another. They did not know how to answer that. Naruto's eyes widened and he inwardly groaned before saying, well, and here I thought I couldn't be any more different. He then tried to get up but felt kind of weak. Great. One major fight and I am out. I need to get back in shape. Well, if you want training, that's the right place, Jiraiya said with a grin. He then thought back to what Chiron said. Hey, if I am a kid of a god, whose am I? We have an idea, but we must keep quiet until they claim you, Chiron stated. Why? Because only a godly parent can claim their child. To have someone else tell them is an insult to them. Annabeth answered for him. Makes sense, Shino said. Seeing the looks he had. Ed, it would be the same if someone of a different clan tried to claim you as a child of that clan. The members of a clan frowned, seeing Shino's point. Naruto snorted. Well, we'll see how this work out. Yes, Chiron smirked. Annabeth, will you please get some ambrosia and nectar? It should help him recover faster. As she left, he noticed Naruto looking at him oddly. It is the food of the gods. Normal human can't eat it or they will die. Demigods eat it because it helps the recover and it is good for them. Ah, Naruto's smart reply was. Snorts were heard all around. Oh, and I almost forgot. These are yours now, use it wisely, Chiron said as he took out the familiar lucky rings of his. Taking it, Naruto asked, so these actually turn into those blades I was using at the museum? Yes, and each hold great power made for you. Quote, oh, Naruto as he took the rings and put them on. Then Annabeth came in with the bowl of some golden liquid, shrugging as it was better than nothing he took. A bite and tasted an all too familiar taste. Could it be, was he right about it after all? It tastes just like Ichiraku's ramen. It has been mouthed since I tasted its sweet food of the gods. He yelled out with anime tears, making Annabeth take a step back at his suddenly loud voice that didn't even wake up Percy. Several of his closest friends face-palmed at this. Chiron just chuckled nervously. So how do you feel? Chiron asked. Like I could fight Zabuza Momochi, demon of the bloody mist, and come out on top, Naruto said as he got up. Iruka blinked. How does he even know of Zabuza? Kakashi did not look anyone in the eyes while Sakura chuckled sheepishly. He noticed he still had his kunai pouch on and put the horn in it and sealed it all back up, making Annabeth's eyes go wide. What the? She let out. Naruto looked at her oddly before saying, seals, very useful. Jiraiya chuckled, looks like he's been studying more than I thought when I taught him. Indeed, Chiron commented with a smirk. Now I will have a camper show you the cabin for later. Then you come back here. When Percy wakes up I will tell more about this as I don't want to say this twice. Fair enough. Naruto as he follows him out the door. Annabeth, please continue to watch Percy please. Chiron ordered while the girl nodded, still wondering about those seals. Once outside, Naruto raised an eyebrow. This place was pretty big. He looked around to see that the hill with the pine tree was not far from them. He felt odd looking at it, like he was being pulled towards it. He shook the feeling off for the moment and looked ahead to see a bunch of cabins in a U-shaped arc. Chiron, not noticing Naruto's small distraction, called out to he saw a girl walking by, Clarice. Come here please. The girl turned her head and saw Chiron and one of the new guys everyone was talking about. She smirked and walked over. Naruto noticed that she was pretty tall, strong-looking, and probably a year or two older than him. She looked gruff and had the look of a fighter. What? Came her response when she arrived. She'd get along here, Asuma muttered to Kurenai who nodded. I would like for you to show Naruto here around the cabins for the moment. I will probably have Annabeth show Naruto and Percy around camp later when the latter wakes up. Chiron stated. Fine. Gotta welcome the newbie anyway. She said with an evil smirk. Naruto raised an eyebrow as that. He knew that smirk, he used it when he did a prank. He guessed the she was welcoming committee. The ones that grew up in the village all had the same thought. She won't know what hit her. Well come on brat, she called out, already walking away. He followed her all the way to the middle of the arc of cabins. Okay, listen closely cause I am only going to say this once. There are 12 cabins in all. Each one represents the Greek good it was made for. Their kids are the one who live in there. Since you and the runt are new and have not been claimed yet, you two will go to cabin 11, the Hermes cabin. Naruto nodded. Hermes did shelter a lot of people, so it made sense. And the one you're in? He asked nonchalantly. The god of war's cabin. She proclaimed while pointing to a red cabin. Cool, Naruto replied. Jiraiya chuckled remembering his short time he spent with the war god. Makes sense when you think about it. Right, now we have the other cabins. We got Demeter, Dionysus, Athena, Apollo, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Hera, Zeus, Artemis and Poseidon. She said pointing to each. The others wanted to ask who was what but figured they would learn later. They just want this chapter to be done now that the fight was over. He looked at Zeus and Hera's and quirked an eyebrow. They got some pretty fancy cabins for nobody to use. Now, it is not to officially welcome you. Clarice called out, making a lot of people look toward them and they grimaced. Clarice was breaking in another newbie. Even though Naruto helped in killing the Minotaur, they felt sorry for him. She quickly reaches out and tried to grab him by the collar. Key word here is tried. She along with everyone else gasped as she grabbed a log, stumbled, fell to one knee. What the big shock? Kiba asked. Yeah, he replaced himself but you can recover quick from that. Remember Kiba, they have no clone about what a shinobi can do. His sensei told him. What the hell? She screamed in her head. Before she could get up, she felt cold metal against her neck. She glanced to the right to see Naruto was facing the other way she was and looked at her from his side and with a smirk on his face. Similar to her evil one earlier. You have slow reflexes when caught by surprise, you should work on that. Naruto said, releasing a small bit of killer intent. While still smirking, they heard a lot of people asking others how he did that, and to Clarice of all people. Some noticed that he had his kunai pouch on and that he didn't have that before. Deciding to scare them, he withdrew his kunai from her neck, put it in his pouch, and sealed it away, earning a few gasps of shock as it just disappeared. He shocked them even more as he stepped back and offered a hand to help Clarice up. While that was happening, Clarice was in deep shock. The hell, I have never been bested like that. She then noticed the hand and quickly took it. She nodded her head and they walked back to the big house where Naruto came out of. Along the way, she was thinking deeply. He could be an Aries kid. If he is not, I am not sure what else he could be. He beat me and could have killed me without me knowing it. What is this weird stupid feeling? Ino and Sakura blinked at this. What? Arriving at the big house, Chiron saw that Naruto looked bored and Clarice looked a little lost. He had a feeling something went wrong with her. Welcome, plan and wait, could see that she was developing a crush for the blonde. Hinata sat there stunned while the others were too shocked to speak. Gods! I feel so sorry for him. At any rate, he was probably going to be hearing what happened from the other campers. Back already, I see, he started. Since Percy won't be fully awake until tomorrow, I would like for you to stay near here. All right then, I am going to take a nap next to the big pine tree. Say a later, Chiron, Clarice. And before Chiron could say anything, Naruto had ninja jumped up to the tree. Neither noticed that Clarice had quickly walked away with a small pink tint to her cheeks. I don't believe it, Sakura muttered softly. Naruto arrived at the tree and sat down with his back to it. This tree had been pulling at him the whole time. He idly wondered if it was cursed or something like that. Slowly falling asleep, he laid his head against the tree and was out like a light. Lee grinned as he closed the book. Well, Naruto's flames of youth are as bright as ever. I must train harder before I can. He could not finish as he was hit in the face by a pillow thrown by Ino. Knock it off and give me that, she ordered, snatching the book from him. I want to know what the hell Naruto is doing now that he got someone that actually has a crush on him. Ada looked downcast for a minute before she shot her head up and kept focus on the book like it was her only lifeline, which it sort of was, to Naruto. Chapter 6. Ino opened the book after finding where Lee led off. Chapter 6. It's summer and we're still learning. Naruto found himself in a black room with red drapes. The room is illuminated by a few lamps hanging on the walls and has red chair. A phonograph on a three-legged table playing music. It was a soft jazz. The record skipped every few minutes. He was not alone. A girl was in the chair across from him, staring at him with shocked eyes. She has shoulder-length spiky black hair, and blue eyes, with freckles under her eyes, mostly on the left, and she is wearing a black strapless dress, the bottom with white lace. To him she looked beautiful. Konohamaru grinned here, thinking his boss might have a girlfriend. Hey, who are you and where are we, as I know this can't be a dream. The girl gulped and stood up. My name is Talia. As for where we are. You were in the tree. How did he manage that? Tsunade asked. All she got were confused looks and shrugs. Now hold on. All I did was fall asleep against your tree, as people call it. How did I get here? Naruto said, a bit panicked in this situation. Your guess is as good as mine. Talia shrugged. So you now know me. Who are you? Oh, my name is Naruto Uzumaki and apparently I'm a half-blood. Naruto replied, calming down and walking up to her. Nice to meet you, Naruto, Talia said with a smile, holding out her hand. He smiled as he took it in his and shook it. I take it you are a half-blood too. So, whose kid are you? Talia got a deadpan look and said, Zeus. You. The blonde raised an eyebrow but didn't know why she did seem to like that. Not a clue. Same for Percy. He arrived here with me and a satyr named Grover. Grover. Yeah, you've heard of him. Naruto said as he backed up from her outburst. What gave you that idea, Naruto? Kiba deadpan. Maybe the two were friend. Hinata suggested, worried slightly at this new girl. He was the satyr who found me, Annabeth, and Luke. How are they, by the way? Well, Grover is always trying to protect me and Percy, but with his facade as a cripple, it did not work that well. He and Percy are best friends. Annabeth is a nice person from what I have seen, and I have not even seen this Luke guy yet. Naruto replied with a shrug. How long have you been here anyway? I think more than 5 years. Wow, that is a long wait, Kakashi muttered. Guy nodded. Indeed, her flames of youth must burn bright for waiting that long. Yeah, I don't think she had a choice, Asuma muttered with a sweat drop. Oh wow, well, since I have this odd power, I guess I can keep you company every now and then. Naruto said with a smile. Talia smiled back. I would like that. It would be nice to actually talk to somebody but yourself. But if you tell the others about this, they might not believe you. I kind of figured that. Though Percy might. I showed him some unbelievable stuff. Naruto chuckled. He looked phonograph and said, though listen to that music for 5 years must be boring. Talia had Anno. Yet look back on her face. You have no idea. It my dad's choice anyway. I guess smooth jazz was his favorite before he stuck me here. If there were more than that record then it would be somewhat fine, but that's the only one. I lost count how many times I broke that record and how many times I smashed that phonograph, or fried them both with lightning. But they keep fixing themselves. The genin winched here. That would drive them insane. Jiraiya felt like he would die if he had to go a single year, let alone 5, without so much as reading porn or seeing some sort of naked lady. Tsunade had the sudden urge to hit Jiraiya, which she might later. Naruto felt pity for her. He would have gone insane if it was him. He tried to cheer her up. It could be worse, it could be disco or some music. They had when the gods were in full glory. Talia couldn't help but smile as she gave a small laugh. He did have a point, but her father could have at least made more records for her or music of her taste. Thinking of the half-blood in front of her, an idea came to her. Naruto. Yeah, I think I might know whose kid you are. What do you think? Hades. Jiraiya gave a snort. Not even close. Naruto chuckled. It can't be. My mom is a goddess. That what her letter said, but it said my dad was a half-blood, so Hades might be his. Well, if that is the case, you still got a friend in me. I don't. She really care if our family fights with each other, which should not have anything to do with us. Talia smiled and gave him a hug. Thank you. And, I won't hate you either. Besides, that is a stupid reason anyway. Exactly. Naruto said as then felt himself waking up. Well, till next time. Yeah, she said a little sadly. Don't worry Talia, I'll be back. I promise, and I never go back on my promises, that's my ninja way. Talia chuckled. I'll hold you to that Naruto. Naruto just back up from the hug and gave her a thumbs up as he disappeared. See you later Naruto, she whispered to herself with a slight blush. Ino blinked here. Seriously, another girl is interested in him like that? The other looked at one another while Hinata bowed her head slightly. Scene change. Back in the normal world. Naruto could see that it was morning. Didn't think I was in there for that long. Getting up. Headed back to the big house to see Grover, Annabeth, and Chiron there around a table with 2 other people he had not met yet. Yo. They turned their heads and saw him. Well, I thought you disappeared. Chiron said, fully turning around. Oh, I just fell asleep against Talia's tree. Naruto replied. Kakashi sighed. Don't give information for alibis that you should not know. Really, I don't remember telling you the name of the tree. Annabeth stated. Naruto smirked and said, I heard it from some campers yesterday. I am not sure if they would believe me. A plausible cover, Shino added. Anyway, I would like you to meet these 2. Chiron said. Naruto took a look at them both. One had a surfer's build and had a lot of eyes all over his body. The other one was an old fat man. These 2 are Argus and Mr. D in that order. Kiba laughed as everything tried and picture a man with eyes everywhere. Wow, this guy might have eyesight to match a Hyuga. I doubt that. Neji muttered, but he would admit he doubt the man would have a blind spot, but their eyes had better vision that is unmatched by anyone. Naruto just nodded because Mr. D looked very tired, or was it bored? Well, I guess I must say it. Welcome to Camp Half-Blood. Nice to be here. Naruto smiled and it was infectious because the man smiled, though it was considered a smirk. Thinking back to all the mythology he had read, he knew a lot or remember a lot of people that started with a D. So that brought out the thing he was about to say. Mr. D, I don't know a lot of Greek history, but there's one guy whose name would fit with you. But names are powerful here, so I will just say that you are the wine god. Tsunade blinked. They have a god of wine. That must be nice. Sakura and Jiraiya sighed here. The others were shocked that this man Naruto described is actually a god. Well, you are a smart boy. You are correct, Mr. D replied, gaining some small respect for the blonde. Wow, Granny Tsunade would love you then. She drinks all the time. Have you even met her? She like 50 years old yet still looks like she's still 20. Quote, Tsunade growled, when I get my hands on that brat, she threatens. Mr. D blinked a few times before laughing. Well, I can honestly say that I have never been to your world that Chiron told me you were from. Now, I have heard about it from the other gods. Now, if I ever get away from this place, I might just take a look. Oh, and to answer your question, no, I have never met her. Although I might look her up one of these days. Oh, Naruto said and then turned to Grover. So Grover, how are you feeling? Better, but it still sucks that I was of no use. I am sure you will get another chance at that in the future. Naruto replied with a smile. The others nodded as they were sure Grover would get a chance to prove himself, and with Naruto helping he will get that chance. Scene change. A while later, Percy had woken up and Grover took him aside to talk a bit. When they got back, that is when things got interesting. Percy looked at the end of the pouch where everyone was and gasped. The man he thought was Mr. Brunner was there. Then he saw a fat man playing some game with him. There was the blonde-haired girl who had feed him the popcorn flavor pudding. And finally there was Naruto joining the game the two men were playing. Mr. Brunner, Percy cried. The Latin teacher turned and smiled at him. His eyes had that mischievous glint they sometimes got in class when he pulled a pop quiz and made all the multiple choice answers be. Iruka thought about it, that might not be a bad idea. Plus it should help students to expect the unexpected. Ah, good, Percy, he said. Now we have 4 for Pinnacle. He offered Percy a chair to the right of Mr. D, who looked at him with bloodshot eyes and heaved a great sigh. Oh, I suppose I must say it. Welcome to Camp Half-Blood. There, now, don't expect me to be glad to see you. Naruto just chuckled at Mr. D's bluntness. Thanks. Percy scooted a little farther away from him because, if there was one thing he had learned from living with Gabe, it was how to tell when an adult has been hitting the happy juice. If Mr. D was a stranger to alcohol, he was a satyr. Jiraiya chuckled, think how Tsunade is the same, which caused her to hit him slightly, leaving a bump. Annabeth, Mr. Brunner called to the blonde girl. She came forward and Mr. Brunner introduced them. This young lady nursed you back to health, Percy. Annabeth, my dear, why don't you go check on Percy's bunk? We'll be putting him, along with Naruto, in cabin 11 for now. Annabeth said, sure, Chiron. While looking at the girl, Percy was checking her out. But not in a perverted way. He thought that her looks were like a typical California girl, but her eyes threw him off as they were gray. He then was wondering what she would say to him because of the fact that he and Naruto killed the Minotaur. He pictured it being, you beat the Minotaur, or, wow, you're so awesome. However, what she said was, you drool when you're asleep. And with that, she left. The guys broke out laughing. Oh, shot down at first glance, Kiba cried, holding his sides laughing. Asuma chuckled, he will have to work to make her forget that. He confused at first until he heard Naruto break out laughing. Oh, man, I beat you. Thought she was going to say that you were awesome of something that. Sucks to be you. Shish, shut up. Percy shot back at his friend before adding. Wait, what about you? When did you wake up? Neither boys saw the slight smirk on Mr. D's face. Remember, I am a fast healer. I woke up yesterday morning. Naruto spoke while Percy just shook his head, thinking that Naruto's healing still annoying when you're the one who was hurt and he fine. Tsunade snorts, at least the brat would not have to stay at the hospital long if he does get hurt. He's too thick-headed for his own good. Still his healing does come in handy, Kakashi added, recalling a few times Naruto recovering faster than others and how it helped him improve. Anyway, you, work here, Mr. Brunner. Not Mr. Brunner, the ex-Mr. Brunner said. I'm afraid that was a pseudonym. You may call me Chiron. Okay. Totally confused, Percy looked at the director. And Mr. D, does that stand for something? Naruto smacked his head. He wondered if his friend had learned anything throughout this ordeal. The genin gained deadpan looks but said nothing. Mr. D stopped shuffling the cards. He looked at Percy like he'd just belched loudly. Young man, names are powerful things. You don't just go around using them for no reason. Oh, right, sorry, I must say, Percy, Chiron broke in. I'm glad to see you alive. It's been a long time since I've made a house call to a potential camper. I'd hate to think I've wasted my time. House call. My year at Yancey Academy, to instruct you. We have satyrs at most schools, of course, keeping a lookout. But Grover alerted me as soon as he met you. He sensed you were something special, so I decided to come upstate. I convinced the other Latin teacher to, take a leave of absence. Then we had Naruto transfer in and I knew he was powerful like you as well. 2 demigods in one place is rare, so I am glad we got both you here safely. Percy tried to remember the beginning of the school year. It seemed like so long ago, but he did have a fuzzy memory of there being another Latin teacher his first week at Yancey. Then, without explanation, he had disappeared and Mr. Brunner had taken the class and then Naruto transferred in and then things were not that bad. You came to Yancey just to teach me? Percy asked. And Naruto? Konohamaru added with a pout. Chiron nodded. Honestly, I wasn't sure about you at first. We contacted your mother. Let her know we were keeping an eye on you in case you were ready for Camp Half-Blood. But you still had so much to learn. Nevertheless, you made it here alive, and that's always the first test. Well, I had help from Naruto. Percy replied. We know, and I am glad the both of you made it in one piece. Chiron said. Grover, Mr. D said impatiently, are you playing or not? Yes, sir. Grover trembled as he took the empty chair, though Percy could. NT figure out why he should be so afraid of a pudgy little man in a tiger print Hawaiian shirt. I still find it strange that he is a god. Choji muttered. Troublesome. Shikamaru muttered. You do know how to play pinnacle. Mr. D eyed him suspiciously. I'm afraid not, he replied. I'm afraid not, sir, Mr. D said. Sir, Percy repeated. He liked the camp director less and less. Well, Mr. D explained. It is. Along with gladiator fighting and Pac-Man, one of the greatest games ever invented by humans. I would expect all civilized young men to know the rules. Gladiator, Pac-Man, Sakura asked. Ino read the footnote that appeared. Gladiators are warriors that fight in an arena. Pac-Man is a game. Just a game. Tenten asked with a raised brow. Ino shrugged. It says too complicated to go into details and I believe it. Quote, I'm sure the boy can learn, Chiron said. Please, Percy said, what is this place? What am I doing here? Mr. Brun Chiron, why would you go to Yancey Academy just to teach me? Mr. D snorted. I asked the same question. The camp director dealt the cards. Grover flinched every time one landed in his pile. Chiron smiled at the 2 boys sympathetically, the way he used to in Latin class. His way to let them know that no matter what their average was, they were his star students. Percy, he said, did your mother tell you nothing? She said. He remembered her sad eyes, looking out over the sea. She told me she was afraid to send me here, even though my father had wanted her to. She said that once I was here, I probably couldn't leave. She wanted to keep me close to her. Typical, Mr. D said. That's how they usually get killed. Little to no information can be deadly, Kakashi stated simply but got nods from the genin. Young man, are you bidding or not? What? Percy asked. He explained, impatiently, how you bid in pinnacle, and so Percy did. I'm afraid there's too much to tell, Chiron said. I'm afraid our usual orientation film won't be sufficient. Orientation film? Percy asked and then rounded on Naruto. And you don't seem to be surprised by this stuff at all. Naruto shrugged and said, well, since I woke up earlier, I was told this already and I told them about the other world and they seemed to understand. Percy just blinked at him owlishly. No, Chiron decided. Well, Percy, you know your friend. Grover is a satyr. You know, he pointed to the horn in the shoebox Percy was holding, that you boys have killed the Minotaur. No small feat, either, lads. What you may not know is that great powers are at work in your life. Gods, the forces you call the Greek gods, are very much alive. Percy stared at the others around the table. He waited for somebody to yell, psych. But all he got was Mr. D yelling, oh, a royal marriage. Trick, trick. He cackled as he tallied up his points and Naruto giving off a serious look and Percy knew this was serious. You know it has to be when Naruto is serious. Iruka said. The others nodded, only seeing him really serious when it was very important. Mr. D, Grover asked timidly, if you're not going to eat it, could I have your Diet Coke can? Huh, oh, alright, yep, half goat, might as well have a goat's stomach. Naruto deadpanned at their satyr friend while he bit a huge shard out of the empty aluminum can and chewed it mournfully. Ino paused as she and everyone else pictured this. Choji pouts slightly envious at not being able to eat anything. Wait, Percy told Chiron. You're telling me there's such a thing as God? Well, now, Chiron said. God capital G, God. That's a different matter altogether. We shan't deal with the metaphysical. Metaphysical, but you were just talking about. Gods, plural, as in, great beings that control the four Cs of nature and human endeavors, the immortal gods of Olympus. That's a smaller matter. Smaller. Yes, quite. The gods we discussed in Latin class. At this point Naruto intervened, seeing that his friend was having trouble coming to terms with this. Percy, remember what I said about the bloodlines back home? He got a nod. Well, think that along with the Greek mythology we learned in class and we got something very power-living. Quote, Jiraiya got an interested look. Do the bloodlines and blood limits come from gods? Percy's eyes widened and said, Zeus, Hera, Apollo and the others. You mean them and that they are real? That was when a thunder boomed. Young man, said Mr. D, I would really be less casual about throwing those names around, if I were you. But they're stories, Percy said. They're myths, to explain lightning and the seasons and stuff. They're what people believed before there was science. The god in the room won't be pleased. Neji observed. Science, Mr. D scoffed. And tell me, Perseus Jackson. He flinched when the man said Percy's real name, which he never told anybody. What will people think of your science 2,000 years from now? Mr. D continued. They will call it primitive mumbo-jumbo. That's what. Oh, I love mortals, they have absolutely no sense of perspective. They think they've come so far. And have they, Chiron? Look at this boy and tell me. Yeah man, we didn't have that luxury back home and we just played off the originators of the bloodlines to something godly. Naruto shrugged. Jiraiya hummed, thinking more about it. Percy, Chiron said, you may choose to believe or not, but the fact is that immortal means immortal. Can you imagine that for a moment, never dying, never fading, existing, just as you are, for all time? That was when he heard Naruto say that it would be lonely. You mean, whether people believed in you or not, Percy said. Exactly, Chiron agreed. If you were a god, how would you like being called a myth? An old story to explain lightning. What, if I told you, Perseus Jackson, that someday people would call you a myth, just created to explain how little boys can get over losing their mothers? Low blow. Iruka muttered, upset that the boy's teacher would say something like that. He would never say something like that even to make a point. I wouldn't like it, but I don't believe in gods, Percy replied, which made Naruto grimace. Oh, you'd better, Mr. D murmured, before one of them incinerates you. Grover said, please, sir. He's just lost his mother. He's in shock. A lucky thing, too, Mr. D grumbled, playing a card. Bad enough I'm confined to this job, working with boys who don't even believe. He waved his hand and a goblet appeared on the table, as if the sunlight had bent, momentarily, and woven the air into glass. The goblet filled itself with red wine. Tsunade blinked at the sudden appearance of wine. She groaned, envious, as she would love nothing more than a sort of jutsu that makes sake or wine appear out of thin air. Jiraiya rolled his eyes here, not believing his teammate would be a baby about that. Now if it was porn or a bunch of sexy naked women, then that would be different. Thunder was heard above them, though there were no clouds outside. Mr. D, Chiron warned, your restrictions. Mr. D looked at the wine and feigned surprise. Dear me. He looked at the sky and yelled. Old habits. Sorry. More thunder. Naruto chuckled and said, yep, Granny Tsunade would really love you. That made Mr. D chuckle and waved his hand again, and the wine glass changed into a fresh can of Diet Coke. He sighed unhappily, popped the top of the soda, and went back to his card game. Tsunade bowed her head, giving the god her pity at the unfair, in her opinion, treatment he was forced to take. Chiron winked. Mr. D offended his father a while back, took a fancy to a wood nymph whom had been declared off limits. Naruto just gave Chiron an odd look before shaking his head. If you can't have any alcohol, just go for a non-alcohol drink. It doesn't count as alcohol, and as a god you could make it taste just like alcohol, though you need at least 30 or more to even get slightly buzzed. Mr. D looked at Naruto as if only seeing him for the first time. Tsunade scoffed here, not believe anything non-alcoholic can be good. Iruka, however, how does he even know that? A wood nymph, Percy repeated, staring at the Diet Coke can like it was from outer space. Yes, Mr. D confessed. Father loves to punish me. The first time, prohibition. Ghastly, absolutely horrid 10 years. The second time, well, she really was pretty, and I couldn't stay away the second time, he sent me here. Half-Blood Hill, summer camp for brats like you. Be a better influence, he told me. Work with youths rather than tearing them down. Ha, absolutely unfair. Mr. D sounded about 6 years old, like a pouting little kid. The genin gained deadpan looks here. This was a god. Well, it backed fire on them. They must be so jealous now. Naruto replied. Jealous? Questioned Mr. D, looking at Naruto, wondering how anything about his punishment could make the other gods jealous. Yeah, how many of the gods can say they get to see their kids every day? You get to see them grow, get stronger, see and be a part of their lives. Not many can. Kakashi chuckled. Good old Naruto. Guy had a grin on his face. Ah, Naruto's flames of youth burns ever bright. Always seeing the bright side of things. Mr. D was quiet, thinking of what Naruto said. It seemed to Percy that he never thought of that. Then he remembered what he was saying to Percy. D immortals, Chiron, Mr. D said. I thought you taught this boy the basics. My father is Zeus, of course. So are a lot of gods. Jiraiya muttered, recalling that both Naruto's mother and grandfather were children of Zeus. Like Naruto before, Percy went through the D name he had learned about and found one that matched Mr. D. Ow, he was not as subtle like his friend. You're Dionysus, he said. The god of wine. Mr. D rolled his eyes. What do they say these days, Grover? Do the children say, well, duh. Why yes, Mr. D. That works as well as, oh really, and, you don't say, in a sarcastic tone. Percy, you had that coming. Naruto commented with a smirk. Shish, shut up, Percy repeated. Konohamaru laughed, as did most of the other guys. Then, well, duh. Percy Jackson. Did you think I was Aphrodite, perhaps? Mr. D asked, irritated, while Naruto thought that was an odd comparison. At least he could have made it another god. Ino scowled here at the fact this fat man made a comparison to her mother. Then she blinked as she knew nothing of her mother here. You're a god. Yes, child, a god. You? Percy asked again, unable to comprehend it. The genin nodded at what they were thinking. Mr. D turned to look at Percy straight on, and he saw a kind of purplish fire in his eyes, a hint that this whiny, plump man was only showing me the tiniest bit of his true nature. He saw visions of grapevines choking unbelievers to death, drunken warriors insane with battle lust, sailors screaming as their hands turned to flippers, their faces elongating into dolphin snouts. Percy knew that if he pushed him, Mr. D would show him worse things. He would plant a disease in his brain that would leave him wearing a straight jacket in a rubber room for the rest of his life. Okay, I take everything I thought about him back, Kiba muttered, stunned, and he was not the only one. Would you like to test me, child? He said quietly. No, sir. The fire died a little. He turned back to his card game. I believe I win. Not quite, Mr. D, Chiron said. He set down a straight, tallied the points, and said, the game goes to me. Oh well, all I got is this, said Naruto, laying his cards down. The other two look at his hand amazed. Are you sure you never played before? Asked Mr. D, and Naruto nodded. Tsunade bled, annoyed at Naruto's luck when it comes to games. It was almost godly. Percy thought Mr. D was going to vaporize Naruto on the spot, but he just sighed through his nose, as if he were used to bine. Beaten by someone who never played before. He got up, and Grover rose, too. Well, if he ever becomes a god, I know what one he would be. Now I'm tired, Mr. Dee said. I believe I'll take a nap before the sing-along tonight. But first, Grover, we need to talk, again, about your less-than-perfect performance on this assignment. Asuma frowned slightly. He didn't do too badly in my opinion. He helped Get them to camp and they were up against a monster that was out of his league. I'm pretty sure most other half-goats would have died. Grover's face beaded with sweat. Why yes, sir, Mr. D turned to Percy. Cabin 11, Percy Jackson. And mind your manners. Take Naruto with you since he will be going as well. He swept into the farmhouse, Grover following miserably. Will Grover be okay? Percy asked Chiron. Chiron nodded, though he looked a bit troubled. Old Dionysus isn't really mad. He just hates his job. He's been, grounded, I guess you would say, and he can't stand waiting. Another CENTURY before he's allowed to go back to Olympus. Suck to be him, Kiba muttered, recalling one time he was forced to sleep in the dog kennels for 3 days for something stupid he did. The fact E-Man had an even longer time made it seem worst. Mount Olympus, Percy said. You're telling me there really is a palace there? Well now, there's Mount Olympus in Greece. And then there's the home of the gods. The convergence point of their powers, which did indeed used to be on Mount Olympus. It's still called Mount Olympus, out of respect to the old ways, but the palace moves, Percy, just as the gods do. You mean the Greek gods are here? Like, in America? Well, certainly. The gods move with the heart of the West. The what? The others nodded, wanting to know as well. Percy. Naruto spoke up again, as Chiron already explained it to him. The West means where the major power is in the world. You see, it has moved from Greece, which was at one point, the point of power in the world. Now it is here in America. Chiron gave Naruto a grateful look because he really didn't want to explain it right now. Iruka chuckled, glad Naruto was actually helping a teacher for once. Then again, no doubt Naruto will make his life hell for a short while. Who are you, Chiron? Who am I? Percy asked, not really taking in everything and understanding it. Who are you? He mused while he started to get out of his chair, which would seem impossible in Percy's mind. Well, that's the question we all want answered, isn't it? But for now, we should get you a bunk in cabin 11. There will be new friends to meet, and plenty of time for lessons tomorrow. Besides, there will be s'mores at the campfire tonight, and I simply adore chocolate. And then he did rise from his wheelchair. But there was something odd about the way he did it. His blanket fell away from his legs, but the legs didn't move. His waist kept getting longer, rising above his belt. At first, Percy thought he was wearing very long, white velvet underwear. But as he kept rising out of the chair, taller than any man, he realized that the velvet underwear wasn't underwear. It was the front of an animal, muscle and sinew under coarse white fur. And the wheelchair wasn't a chair. It was some kind of container, an enormous box on wheels, and it must have been magic, because there's no way it could have held all of him. A leg came out, long and knobby-kneed, with a huge polished hoof. Then another front leg, then hindquarters, and then the box was empty, nothing but a metal shell with a couple of fake human legs attached. Percy stared at the horse who had just sprung from the wheelchair, a huge white stallion. But where its neck should be was the upper body of their Latin teacher, smoothly grafted to the horse's trunk. The others blinked at this description. Now Naruto's wording makes sense, Shikamaru muttered, adding a troublesome under his breath. What a relief, the centaur said. I'd been cooped up in there so long. My fetlocks had fallen asleep. Now, come, Percy Jackson, Naruto Uzumaki. Let's meet the other campers. Percy just nodded and he and Naruto followed. Naruto leaned over and said, I told you. I told you. Shut up, Percy repeated for the 3rd time today. No, I think that would be the perfect time for I told you so's, Kakashi said. Ino pouted, not really getting much information she was looking for. Maybe a different girl seems to like him but not enough in her mind. She flipped the page and went to the next one to get to the bottom of this, in her mind, mind-boggling mystery. Chapter 7. Ino started once again before anyone could stop her. Chapter 7. Percy become the new water boy, huh? Lee asked, getting shrugs all around. After Percy got over his shock, he ran to Cairo. Ends sighed along with Naruto and they started the tour of the camp. They passed the volleyball pit and several of the campers nudged each other. One pointed to the minotaur horn Percy was carrying. They could hear them say things like, "It's them. How did that blonde guy do that thing with that log? Clarice is going to get him back for that." Naruto chuckled as Percy gave him a look and smirked. "You just had to show off, huh? Me, I have never been more insulted in all my life," Naruto said in a fake hurtful tone. Kakashi chuckled, "Sure you are." As they walked that saw everyone doing activities and satyrs joining them in their activities with orange camp half-blood shirts and nothing else. "Hey," Percy said aloud, "what is up there?" he said pointing the fourth story of the big house that they just left. Chiron looked to where Percy was pointing and his smile faded, making Naruto raise an eyebrow. "Just the attic." "Somebody lives there." "No," he said with finality. "Not a single living thing." "Why would he say it like that?" Sakura asked. The others shrugged but Tsunade and Jiraiya shot a glance at each other. Naruto looked at the window to the attic oddly but thought nothing of it. "Come along boys," Chiron said, his light-hearted tone now a little forced. "Lots to see." They walked through the strawberry fields, where campers were picking bushels of berries while a satyr played a tune on a reed pipe. "I wonder how hard it is to learn how to play one or maybe a flute," Naruto idly thought, not listening to Chiron tell them that these strawberries pay for the camp's expenses. Shikamaru's thoughts went to his fight with Tayuya and her flute. With Naruto playing on and making a lot of noise it would be even more troublesome. Percy did look a little sad though and Naruto somehow knew that he was wondering if Grover was okay. He was getting chewed out by a god though, so it was anyone's guess. "Grover won't get in too much trouble, will he?" Percy asked Chiron. "I mean, he was a good protector." "Really?" Chiron sighed. He shed his tweed jacket and draped it over his horse's back like a saddle. "Grover has big dreams, Percy. Perhaps bigger than are reasonable. To reach his goal, he must first demonstrate great courage by succeeding as a keeper, finding a new camper and bringing him safely to Half-Blood Hill." "But he did that," Percy exclaimed. "Yeah, 2 campers nonetheless," Naruto grumbled. Now he was worried about their friend as well. "And there is nothing wrong with having big dreams. I'll help him out with his no matter what." Iruka smiles ring Naruto's thoughts and could not be any prouder of the boy. Lee had a fire in his eyes. "Yosh. Grover's flames of youth ever burn bright. With his dream lighting the way he shall not fail." Guy gave his student his grin and a thumbs up. "Right you are Lee. You must train even harder in order to reach your dream just as I know both Naruto and Grover are." Lee pumped his fist all excited. "Yosh. I shall train even harder than before. And should I ever meet this Grover I see how bright his flames of youth are." Someone on his search for Pan Grover shivered harshly. He felt like something terrible would happen to him one day. "I might agree with you," Chiron said. "But it is not my place to judge. Dionysus and the Council of Cloven Elders must decide. I'm afraid they might not see this assignment as a success. After all, Grover lost you too in New York. Then there's the unfortunate fate of your mother. And the fact that Grover was unconscious when Naruto brought him over the property line. The council might question whether this shows any courage on Grover's part. He helped get us here so I think that is good enough. Even he is a bit weak, he is still a good guy." Naruto replied. "He'll get a second chance. Won't he?" Percy asked. Chiron winced. "I'm afraid that was Grover's second chance, Percy." The group winced here, feeling for Grover. "Man that's tough," Konohamaru stated getting nods all around. Iruka was quite thinking of how much Grover was like Naruto. He smiled. No wonder the two are friends. Well, Grover will have someone who will push and believe in him. "I have no doubt that you shall reach your dream, Grover." The council was not anxious to give him another, either, after what happened the first time, 5 years ago. Olympus knows, I advised him to wait longer before trying again. He's still so small for his age. 5 years. Oh, that must mean that he was with Tayuya since she mentioned him. Pondered Naruto. How old is he? Oh, 28. The group blinked. Really? Hiba asked, wondering if Ino read it wrong. Shino adjusted his glasses. Perhaps Grover's kind age at a different rate a human would. Makes sense, his sensei added, thinking it over. What? And he's in 6th grade. Well, hey, I am 13 and I was in 6th grade too. Naruto said. Yeah, that's not as big a deal, but, 28. Percy panicked as he looked back to Chiron. Satyrs mature half as fast as humans, Percy. Grover has been the equivalent of a middle school student for the past 6 years. That's horrible, Percy said while Naruto shivered. I didn't like the idea of taking school over and over again. It would be a nightmare to him. Kiba shivered as did some of the other boys. Yeah, I feel for the goat. Iruka frowned at his students. School was not that bad. That and no ramen. K deadpans, although Iruka shook his head while Konohamaru laughed with his friends. Hinata gave a small smile as she tabbed her fingers together. Quite, Chiron agreed. At any rate, Grover is a late bloomer, even by satyr standards, and not yet very accomplished at woodland magic. Alas, he was anxious to pursue his dream. Perhaps now he will find some other career. That's not fair, Percy said. What happened the first time? Was it really so bad? Some of them winced recalling what happened to Grover's last charge. Chiron looked away quickly. Let's move along, shall we? The boys were not convinced but didn't want to anger the horseman. Chiron, Percy said, if the gods and Olympus and all that are real. Yes, child, does that mean the underworld is real, too? I would imagine so, Kakashi said offhandedly with a shrug. Underworld? Sakura asked. Tsunade replied, it's their version of the afterlife. Not all a nice place from what I heard. Chiron's expression darkened but it was gone in a split second. Yes, child. He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. There is a place where spirits go after death. But for now, until we know more, I would urge you to put that out of your mind. What do you mean, until we know more? Come, Percy, let's see the woods. They wanted to know what he was talking about when they reached the edge of the forest that thought left them. Once they saw it, they thought the forest was huge. It took up at least a quarter of the valley, with trees so tall and thick, you could imagine nobody had been in there since the Native Americans. The others raised a brow. With trees like that, Naruto might have felt like home. Naruto smiled a sad smile and said, feels like home. Percy looked at him and put a hand on his shoulder. Naruto had told him a lot of the world he used to live in. He didn't believe it at first because it sounded weird, but so were his experiences, so he just took it in stride. Chiron said, interrupting them, the woods are stocked, if you care to try your luck, but go armed. Oh, that sounds nice. Naruto deadpanned. Sounds just like the forest of death with the way you put it. Tell us about it, Kiba said with a deadpan. At least we don't have crazy ninja all around us. Tenten glanced at her sensei and teammates before she just sighed. Stocked with what? Percy asked, a little freaked out now. Naruto told him about the forest of death and he hoped Naruto was wrong. Armed with what? Monster or beasts of some kind, Asuma mused with a smirk, and I am sure they have all sorts of weapons at that camp. You'll see. Capture the flag is Friday night. Do you have your own sword and shield? My own. We just got here, how would we have those? Deadpanned Naruto. Chiron had the decency to look sheepish. No, he said. I don't suppose you do. I think a size 5 will do. I'll visit the armory later. He then glanced at Naruto's rings. He knew Naruto would be alright. But at the moment he was more worried about Percy. Tenten frowned. Now that camp started to sound exciting. She really wanted to train there. Sword and spear fights? Percy asked. Cabin challenges and all that. He explained. Not lethal, usually. Oh, yes, and there's the mess hall. Chiron pointed to an outdoor pavilion framed in white Grecian columns on a hill overlooking the sea. There were a dozen stone picnic tables. No roof. No walls. Not bad. Naruto smirked as he observed it, he really wanting to eat now. What do you do when it rains? Percy asked with a confused face. Seeing as the area is controlled by the gods, I would assume they would have no trouble with rain. Shino guessed. Shikamaru thought about it, wondering how much time he would be able to watch the clouds without worry of rain or anything that would ruin it. Chiron looked at him as if he had gone a little weird. We still have to eat, don't we? He then sighed and decided to drop the subject. Finally, they reached the cabins that Naruto had seen earlier. The collection of 12 cabins was very odd to Percy, but Naruto didn't seem as fazed. He guessed the blonde and seen weirder things. Which was very possible with all those stories Naruto had told him. Percy looked back at the building to get a better outlook at what was what. They were arranged in a U, with 2 at the base and 5 in a row on either side. Except for the fact that each had a large brass number above the door with odds on the left side, evens on the right, they looked absolutely nothing alike. Number 9 had smokestacks, like a tiny factory. Number 4 had tomato vines on the walls and a roof made out of real grass. 7 seemed to be made of solid gold, which gleamed so much in the sunlight it was almost impossible to look at. They all faced a commons area about the size of a soccer field, dotted with Greek statues, fountains, flower beds, and a couple of basketball hoops, which Percy smirked at. Now that was something he could do. In the center of the field was a huge stone-lined fire pit. Even though it was a warm afternoon, the hearth smoldered. A girl about 9 years old was tending the flames, poking the coals with a stick. Iruka frowned. Should she be doing that all by herself? She could get seriously hurt. I'm sure someone is watching her, Kakashi replied to calm the Chunin down. Naruto found this odd, but he did feel that the girl extruded a lot of power. She was someone that you did not mess with, that was for sure. He have to remember to talk to her later, she seemed lonely to him. Naruto's friends knew the loud mouth would go and keep her company sooner or later. Percy looked to the huge mausoleum-like cabins at the bend of the U and he instantly knew who they were for. Zeus and Hera. Correct, Chiron said. Their cabins look empty. Several of the cabins are. That's true, but no one ever stays in those 2. Chiron explained. What a drag. Naruto muttered Shikamaru's famous saying. Shikamaru's eyebrow twitched slightly. Troublesome blondes, he muttered. Sounds like a real waste to me. He then noticed that Percy was staring at a long, low, and solid cab. In that seemed to be extruding power as well. The outer walls were of rough gray stone studded with pieces of seashell and coral, as if the slabs had been hewn straight from the bottom of the ocean floor. Curious. Percy tried to take a peek inside. Chiron said, "Oh, I wouldn't do that." But Percy had already looked in and was a little sad at how sad and empty it looked inside. "Come on, Percy." Ron said as he led them away from the cabin. "I swear this guy knows something. What a drag, I am sounding more and more like Shikamaru. Next I'll be lying around all day watching the clouds and sleeping." Naruto ranted in his head. Once again Shikamaru's eyebrow was twitching in annoyance while his friends chuckled at the unintentional jab. Sakura however was thinking more towards Percy's actions. I wonder why he was so interested in that one empty cabin. It was as if it was calling to him. Now, most of the other cabins, however, had a lot of kids for their cabins. Naruto held in a chuckle. Man, these gods just can't seem to keep it in their pants. Number 5 was bright red, which did not have that great of a paint job. It was as if the color had been splashed on with buckets and fists. The roof was lined with barbed wire. A stuffed wild boar's head hung over the doorway, and its eyes seemed to follow all that looked at it. Inside they could see a bunch of mean-looking kids, both girls and boys. Arm wrestling and arguing with each other while rock music blared. The loudest was a girl maybe 13 or 14. She wore a size XXXL Camp Half-Blood t-shirt under a camouflage jacket. She zeroed in on Percy and gave him an evil sneer. She reminded him of Nancy Bobofit, though the camper girl was much bigger and tougher looking, and her hair was long and stringy, and brown instead of red. Naruto smirked as he recognized her. Her cabin seemed really fun. Ino deadpan, of course he would think that. Neji frowned hearing about that cabin, they reminded him too much of thugs in his opinion. However he caught one part, why did Naruto recognize the one girl mentioned? Ino blinked and reread the passage. It doesn't say. Kiba smirked. Maybe it was that one girl from before. The one that has a crush on Naruto. His laughter was ended by a smack from his sensei. As he rubbed his head he did not notice that Hinata's head dropped slightly hearing this. Percy then noticed something. Hey, where are all the other centaurs? They around here? No, said Chiron sadly. My kinsmen are a wild and barbaric folk, I'm afraid. You might encounter them in the wilderness, or at major sporting events. But you won't see any here. Naruto gave the man a smirk. Oh, so they are the guys who love to party, Now they are some people I want to meet. Chiron put a smirk and said. I am not sure about that, Naruto. They take it to the extreme and they do that every day. So what you are saying is that they are the ones who invented tailgate parties and frat parties. Naruto deadpanned and Chiron just nodded. Oh boy, Iruka frowned. I don't like the sound of that. Hopefully Naruto will not meet any of them. With Naruto's luck, he most likely will, Kakashi pointed out. Kiba frowned. He thought that they sound awesome and would love to meet them. If he does meet them, I will be so pissed. You said your name was Chiron. Percy interrupted. Are you really? He smiled down at the boy. The Chiron from the stories. Trainer of Hercules and all that. Yes, Percy, I am. Wow, Jiraiya muttered, he must be really old. No wonder he seems to remind me of Sensei. Tsunade nodded, wondering how he was able to live for so long. But, shouldn't you be dead? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Tsunade's eye twitched here. No good, disrespecting brat. Chiron paused, as if the question intrigued him. I honestly don't know about should be. The truth is I can't be dead. You see, eons ago the gods granted my wish. I could continue the work I loved. I could be a teacher of heroes as long as humanity needed me. I gained much from that wish, and I gave up much. But I'm still here, so I can only assume I'm still needed. Being a teacher for all time, man, that sounds boring. Naruto said. Iruka frowned here. It is very fulfilling work, Naruto, he muttered. His students snickered, causing him to scowl at them. No, Chiron said. Horribly depressing. At times, but never boring. Why depressing? Percy asked. I can only imagine why. Naruto said quietly. Being immortal mean you see all those that you have learned to love die sooner or later. I am not sure if I could do that. Iruka sighed, as did Jiraiya, Tsunade and most of the older shinobi. They all had students or someone close to them dying. Oh, look, he said. Annabeth is waiting for us. Chiron suddenly said, as if not hearing the question. When they reached the blonde girl, it was at cabin 11. The girl was reading a book that was not even in English. The thing was in Greek and it seemed to be about Greek architecture. Annabeth, Chiron said, I have master's archery class at noon. Would you take these two from here? Yes, sir. Cabin 11, Chiron told them, gesturing toward the doorway. Make yourself at home. Out of all the cabins, 11 looked the most like a regular old summer camp cabin, with the emphasis on old. The threshold was worn down, the brown paint peeling. Over the doorway was one of those doctor's symbols, a winged pole with two snakes wrapped around it. Looking inside, Naruto's sweat dropped at what he saw. It was packed with people, both boys and girls. Way more than the number of bunk beds. Sleeping bags were spread all over on the floor. Oh, crud, this is worse than the orphanage back home, or maybe not. He thought as he looked at them all. They were all in good spirits. Jiraiya smiled. At least he will find someone that can stand by him and understand him, it seems. He did notice that when they saw Chiron, they stood and bowed to the man. Well, then, Chiron said. Good luck, Percy. I'll see you at dinner. He then galloped away toward the archery range. Naruto looked back at the retreating horseman with a glint in his eyes. Percy saw that and felt like he should try and get Naruto to spare him. But then again, this was Naruto. When he has a target for a prank in mind, not even a god could stop him. True, Iruka admitted. Hell, he was certain some of the gods there would be unable to stop him. You have a prank in mind, don't you? Naruto, just look at him. Remember that 3-hour hell he put us through. Percy shivered at the memory. The other students shivered as well. The Konohamaru Corp. All glanced at an amused Iruka with fear in their eyes. The genin that already finished the academy gave the trio their pity. Hinata knew her little sister would not like whatever Iruka had in store for her in her class. Turning back to the group behind them, they noticed that all the kids were sizing up the two of them. Great. Now they needed to make a good impression. So naturally Percy tripped coming in the door and made a total fool of myself. There were some snickers from the campers, but none of them said anything. Naruto just walked in nonchalantly, which seemed to calm Percy down a bit. Annabeth announced, Percy Jackson, Naruto Uzumaki, meet cabin 11. Regular or undetermined? Somebody asked. Choji asked as he took a bit of his chips. Ino saw a new footnote forming. Regular means they children of Hermes, a minor god or goddess who stay in the cabin. Undetermined means they have yet to be claimed by their godly parents. Kiba scowled. Not claimed. What the hell? Does that mean the gods are ignoring their kids or something? Ino shrugged, not sure how to answer that. She recalled who our mother was and wondered if she even missed or knew about her life. After a moment she read on, shaking the thought from her mind. The words I'm looking for are, we just got here, recently arrived, I'm unfamiliar with this place. I suppose the operative phrase you're looking for is, we're new. Naruto listed off his fingers with a deadpan look, and there was a groan of annoyance from everyone in the cabin. Jiraiya chuckled. That's one way to put it. A guy who was a little older than the rest came forward. Now, campers. That's what we're here for. Welcome, Percy, Naruto. You can have that spot on the floor. Right over there. It is pretty big, so the two of you will fit for now. The guy was about 19, and he looked pretty cool. He was tall and muscular, with short cropped hair and a friendly smile. He wore an orange tank top, cutoffs, sandals, and a leather necklace with 5 different colored clay beads. The only thing unsettling about his appearance was a thick white scar that ran from just beneath his right eye to his jaw, like an old knife slash. Oh ho, now this guy seems like fighter. Naruto smirked at the thought. He knew this place was going to be fun. Sakura and Ino blinked. Not bad. Reminded me of Sasuke for some reason, Ino muttered. The guys frowned or outright scowled at the mention of the boy. Kakashi was quite wondering. This is Luke, Annabeth said. And her voice sounded different somehow. They looked at her and it looked like she just got out of a blush. Naruto raised an eyebrow. It seemed that she was into old guys. He smirked. He could tease her later. His expression hardened when she them looking, but for Naruto, he already had some pranking material. He's your counselor for now. For now, Percy asked. You're undetermined, Luke explained patiently. They don't know what cabin to put you in, so you're here. Cabin 11 takes all newcomers, all visitors. Naturally, we would. Hermes, our patron, is the god of travelers. Hey, the god of thieves. Now that is a guy that sounds fun. Naruto said, getting a few chuckles from the other campers. Asuma chuckled, as did the older shinobi. Well, he fits in with us all right. He decided to give back Luke's wallet, his pocket knife and his wristwatch, so he held them out. Here, I think these are yours, man. Wah, Luke said, a little surprised. How? When? Kiba was the first to burst out laughing. He was followed lightly by his friends and those close to Naruto. Aw man, I wish I got to see his face when Naruto did that. Oh, just now, and I am a ninja, it's just too easy for me. Naruto said, getting a few shocked looks. Anyway, Percy interrupted, already used to Naruto's antics. How long are we going to be here? Good question, Luke said as he took his stuff back. Until you're determined. How long will that take? The campers all laughed. I am getting the feeling that take a long time. Naruto's sweat dropped. What do we have to do? Prove ourselves. Fight half the camp. Jiraiya deadpan here. Knowing you, Naruto, you would. Come on, Annabeth told me. I'll show you the volleyball court. I've already seen it. Percy replied. Not what she meant, Shikamaru muttered. So troublesome, just like Naruto. Come on. She grabbed his wrist and dragged him outside. Percy could hear the kids of Cabin 11 laughing behind him. Naruto shook his head but followed them. This girl was odd, but she seemed fun to him. He them chuckled to himself. Could Percy already have a girlfriend and already be whipped? Nah. He just got here after all. When we were a few feet away, Annabeth said. Jackson, you have to do better than that. Huh, what? Yeah, what he said, Kiba added. She rolled her eyes and mumbled under her breath, I can't believe I thought you were the one. What's your problem? Naruto grimaced as he heard the anger in his friend's voice. All I know is, I kill some bull guy, and that was with the help of Naruto. We just kill some odd bull freak. Don't talk like that, Annabeth told him. You know how many kids at this camp wish they'd had your chance. Kakashi hummed in thought, so fighting a monster like that must be higher version of a higher rank mission or something. Sakura frowned, recalling on her first real mission she and her team had to go up against someone at Kakashi's level. To get killed? Percy asked with a confused look. To fight the Minotaur. What do you think we train for? The girl yelled. Give us a break, we just got here and had no idea about this. Though you guys must train your asses off here. The Minotaur from those old stories was a pain in the ass to kill. I only weaken it with a Rasengan. Naruto complained. Well, to be fair, it has a lot of power behind those muscles, Jiraiya mused. And add to the healing factor, monster have leaves certain jutsu ineffective to certain monsters. Now if it was a more powerful version or a weaker monster, then we was talking a more even field of damage. Neji frowned. Having only seen that jutsu once in person and after hearing the effects, no, it was not something someone can walk off with ease. What rank is the Rasengan? Jiraiya thought about it. Well, it was never made official, but I would say at least A rank by itself. He paused, not noticing the looks the others genin were giving him, plus you have to add the fact it is an unfinished jutsu. What? Nearly the whole room shouted at this. Konohamaru had stars in his eyes. You mean the boss's big jutsu can become even more badass? He was bopped lightly on the head by his uncle for his choice of words. Jiraiya grinned. Yep, Naruto's old man wanted to add an element to the jutsu. But he never got around to it. I have no doubt that Naruto will be the first to do it. A what? Annabeth asked. Naruto just sighed as he created a ball of swirling energy that disappeared after a few seconds, but those watching them had seen it and wondered what it could do. Wait, Theseus killed him in the labyrinth. So, Percy trailed off. Monsters don't die, Percy. They can be killed, but they don't die. Is she serious? Shikamaru asked, annoyed. Kiba groaned, but they mean the same thing. Both leave the guy dead. Kakashi mused. I think there is more to this than meets the eye. I am sure she will explain it either way. Oh, thanks. Now say that to someone who has never been here before. 'Cause the words, killed, and die, are pretty much the same, muttered Naruto. They don't have souls, like us. You can dispel them for a while, maybe even for a whole lifetime if you're lucky. But they are primal forces. Chiron calls them archetypes. Eventually, they reform. Hinata shivered. It was scary to be fighting an enemy that can never die and would come back for revenge. As being a half-blood really something so hard? Oh, that's nice, Naruto said as he smacked his head. You mean if we killed one, accidentally, with a sword? The fur? I mean, your math teacher. That's right, she's still out there. You just made her very, very mad. Annabeth informed him. How did you know about Mrs. Dodds? You talk in your sleep. Snorts were heard all around. That was one thing you did not need as a ninja. You almost called her something. A fury. They're Hades. Torturers, right? Naruto asked while Percy nodded. Annabeth glanced nervously at the ground, as if she expected it to open up and swallow her. You shouldn't call them by name, even here. We call them the kindly ones, if we have to speak of them at all. Man, you guys take fear to the extreme. Sure, she was a creepy bat. And I use that term loosely, but come on. They can't be that bad. Naruto replied. Annabeth just gave him a look. Something tells me that they are, Kurenai said, worried for the kids at the camp. Look, is there anything we can say without it thundering? Percy whined. That even sounded sad to him. Why do I have to stay in cabin 11, anyway? Why is everybody so crowded together? There are plenty of empty bunks right over there, he said, pointing to a few other cabins. You don't just choose a cabin, Percy. It depends on who your parents are. Or, your parent, Annabeth informed him. He seemed to get it, maybe. My mom is Sally Jackson, he said. She works at the candy store in Grand Central Station. At least, she used to. The group bowed their heads at the fallen mother once more. Percy, I think she means your dad. Naruto commented. But he's dead. I never knew him, Percy said. Annabeth sighed. Clearly, she'd had this conversation before with other kids. Your father's not dead, Percy. I am getting the feeling that he is a god, right? Naruto deadpanned. What? Percy said, surprised. How else would you be allowed here? Naruto shrugged. What about you? Percy pointed to Naruto. Oh, I am not sure, but whoever my mom was, she said to just wait until the right time. Besides, you know that I am an orphan, so I am used to waiting around like this won't kill me. This time winces were shared as the others were not sure how they should feel about that. Oh, right, Percy said, a little embarrassed. But, How do I know I am a demigod as they are called? Usually demigods are diagnosed with dyslexia and probably ADHD, too. Annabeth said. Dyslexia is where you mix up word and stuff, right? Percy asked. Hey, you think you got it bad, what about me? I know 3 languages now. Naruto said. English, Japanese, and now this Greek stuff. 3. Iruka asked stunned. Greek I can understand, Jiraiya said, so this English must be the L. Ang the people he is with are speaking. So, you could read it at the museum as well. Yep, Naruto answered. Okay, so how does ADHD help? Simple. They are your battle reflexes. Annabeth stated. It is a good thing you had that because if you didn't, you would not have survived the Minotaur, much less eaten the ambrosia and nectar. Percy, that stuff you drank that made you feel better. Naruto said. For me that stuff tasted like Ichiraku's ramen. He had anime tears in his eyes, making Percy chuckle to himself. His friend had the weirdest tastes and suffering from withdrawal. My mom's cookies, Percy said sadly. Even Naruto was sad, he liked Ms. Jackson and was very nice to him, plus her cookies were the best. Kiba chuckled. Yeah, got to respect the cookies. Lee grinned, wishing he had some of the woman's famous youthful, in his eyes cookies. Well, those are the signs, you two are defiantly demigods. Annabeth said, but before she could say anything else, she was interrupted by someone very familiar to her and Naruto. Ino blinked as she paused. Wait, if that helps show you are a demigod, then how am I reading this easily? You didn't notice? Sakura asked. Jiraiya leaned over and glanced at the page. Well, that's Greek, I believe. Must have changed so you can read it with ease. Some of the other genin were quite wondering if their inability to read easily and they our good battle instincts were what they thought they were. Well, a newbie, a husky voice said. Percy looked over to the big girl he saw in the Ares cabin, come sauntering toward them. She had 3 other girls behind her, all big and ugly and mean looking like her, all wearing camo jackets. He noticed that she was talking to him, but also that she was stealing glances at his blonde-haired friend. Oh God, no. Why does he attract all the strong and mean girls? Percy remembered some of the other bullies wanting a piece of Naruto back when they were at school and not in the line-up to beat down. Wait. Ino cried out as she finished that line. Oh come on. Why is he getting so much attention when he was a loser here? I believe because we all know him in a way. Everyone turned to Shino. Said boy adjusted his glasses. Even before the academy we knew of Naruto as some way or form. Most of what we knew was either negative or indifferent. Over there he is a blank slate. He also shows skills that are better than a normal person in that world. All of it adds up, getting the attention of different girls without changing who he is or anything of the sort. The others looked at him while Hinata all by slumped over. With so many girls after Naruto for who he is, then how will I get him to notice me? Clarice, Annabeth sighed, also noticing the looks. Why don't you go polish your spear or something? She then muttered, unless you want to polish someone else's spear. Jiraiya giggled perversely as he quickly wrote that down, only for Tsunade to smack him into the wall and rip his little notebook apart. Shut up, princess, the big girl said, trying not to blush. I'll just run you through with it Friday night. Res Korakas, Annabeth said, which was Greek for, go to the crows. Though the boys had a feeling it was a worse curse than it sounded. Ino glanced down at the new footnote. Basically she's telling Clarice to go to hell. Kiba scoffed. Really? Why not just say that? He then paused, although it may be a fun insult to those who don't know it. Kurenai groaned as rubbed her forehead, knowing this was going to cause a headache for her. You don't stand a chance. We'll pulverize you, Clarice said. He then looked at Naruto and had a slight pink tint to her cheeks. Hey Naruto, who is the runt with you? Oh, this is my friend Percy Jackson. Yes, and I am. Sure, Naruto already knows this, but this is Clarice, daughter of Ares, god of war. Annabeth mumbled, finding it odd that Clarice could well nice. Sakura and Ino nodded, knowing it would seem odd to them as well. The war god, Percy said with both eyebrows raised. Clarice sneered and held up Percy by the collar. You got a problem with that? No, Percy said, recovering his wits. It explains the bad smell. Naruto smacked his head. Now he gets a backbone. Jiraiya copied Naruto. Not the best thing to say. From what Ares told me, his kid specializes in all sort of fighting, unarmed, armed, and anything else you can dream of. Able to use any weapons and need little training to master their weapon of choice. Tenten grinned. Now she wanted to spar with Clarice or any of her siblings. Clarice growled. We got an initiation ceremony for newbies, Prissy. Percy. Whatever. Come on, I'll show you. Clarice said as he dragged the boy to the bathrooms. Clarice. Annabeth tried to say. Stay out of it, wise girl. Clarice growled as she and the others walked away. Naruto. Annabeth rounded on her fellow blonde. You have to help him. Sighing, Naruto replied, I know I should be. I can't be the one to fight all his battles. True. Jiraiya agreed. It was like with Naruto when he trained him. Iruka frowned. While he agreed with what Naruto was saying, he would at least make sure his friend would be able to handle them. He then grabbed the horn Percy dropped. They walked to the door while saying this, and he was sure Percy heard him. Let's see if he can regain some of that strength like last time. Annabeth and Naruto watched at the door as Clarice and her friends mocked Percy. As they began to push Percy's head toward the toilet, Naruto felt that power that he felt back at the museum. Oh, this is going to be messy. Huh, Annabeth asked. Will she stop coping us? Kiba muttered with a twitching eyebrow. Then, one of the toilets shot out water at Clarice. And as her friends tried to help her, the other toilets exploded, blasting water all over the place. Naruto grabbed Annabeth and jumped to the ceiling but still got wet. Didn't see that coming, he said, shaking water out of his hair. Gags and groans all around were heard as this was read. That's nasty, Ino muttered. Percy walked over to them with a shocked expression, but he was laughing in the inside at how funny the two looked. Annabeth said, How did you? I don't know. Percy shrugged. Well, Percy, you just gave the name Water Boy a whole new meaning. Naruto said, which actually got a laugh from Annabeth. Percy just told him to shut up. The guys chuckled slightly at that. At least the title makes sense now, Choji added, renewing the laughs. They walked to the door. Outside, Claw, Riss and her friends were sprawled in the mud, and a bunch of other campers had gathered around to gawk. Clarice's hair was flattened across her face. Her camouflage jacket was sopping and she smelled like sewage. She gave me a look of absolute hatred. You are dead, new boy. You are totally dead. However, it was quickly gone because Naruto had decided to help out. He created 2 shadow clones to help her cabin mates. He walked over to Clarice and helped her up. Don't be too hard on him next time. He smirked and then winked. He then jumped back to Percy's and Annabeth's side, leaving more shocked people to look at him. He never saw the full-blown blush on her face. Sakura sighed. God, even in a new world he is so dense. Can't even see if a girl likes him. Hinata, however, perked up at this, hoping for a chance still. Show off. Percy smirked. Oh, you and your hurtful words, Naruto shrugged. Laughed renewed again, knowing how Naruto would be. He then noticed Annabeth looking from Percy to Naruto. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, she said, that I want the 2 of you on my team for capture the flag. If you want our help, you got to get the whole cabin that goes along with us. Ino groaned as she closed the book. That's it, I give up. Tsunade sighed. Well, we could use a break anyways. Let's go, relax and maybe eat, then we can meet back here to read again.